Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. What's up, DB?
Oh, whoa. How we doing?
Do you remember who you are?
Yeah, he's wild. Isn't he? My man is. That's a couple Red Bulls, a couple C4s.
What did I text you in game too? Because
he tried. They tried, but not to be outdone by Minnesota.
Yeah, what are they doing?
Yeah, not to be outdone. Again, I get it. It's the NFL and your team analytics, but just feel free to take the points.
Yeah. So the one with Minnesota for me was, I wish they hadn't tried the field goal, the 51-yarder when they're down 8.
Yeah.
Like, I need you to go for it there.
Was that 4th and what, 7, 6?
No, it was less than that, I thought.
I don't think so.
Okay. I'll still, 4th and 6, you're down 8. You haven't had a lot of luck scoring the ball so far in that game.
Well, I just felt like the closer they were, the worse it was going to be.
What do you mean?
The closer they were in the red zone.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant the closer score. I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense.
Oh, okay.
I don't always know what you're talking about.
Crackhead.
But no, like that one, I'm like, maybe we don't take the points there. But, yeah, Dan Campbell, like every once in a while, you should take points.
Yeah, it's just wild. I like the fact, and I said this before, apparently, if it's just it is just who they are. But, like, does Ben say anything to him, do you think?
To Campbell?
Yeah.
I would have to think
so. Or do you think Campbell's got it? Excuse me. Campbell's got it to the point where he'll just say no.
Okay.
If I don't say anything, unless I say no,
we're going.
Do your thing.
I would think they have enough of a familiarity with each other at this point that he has a pretty good idea what he's going to go for.
Yeah.
Which is almost always.
Do you like Rex Ryan's Grinch suit?
No, I don't.
Oh.
There's a time and a place. I don't think he is the time or the place. That's not a good look for him.
I hear you.
It's also the color combo with it's not good. The pink tie, like that's not working.
Did you like Vrabel's token interview?
Yeah, we love a token interview, don't we?
Yeah, Vrabel's not going to New York.
No. Like the Patriots don't fire Mayo without having Vrabel already locked up.
Do you listen to Mayo talk ever?
Yeah, I don't love it.
It's kind of weird.
I'm not a huge fan.
It's almost like, I don't know. Have you ever done something for so long, and it's kind of not the norm, but you've done it long enough where you forget what normal is?
I mean, that describes like most of my personality.
See, I think he's been in New England so long, he forgot how the rest of the free
how like normal people talk
and think.
Yeah, that makes sense. He's like indoctrinated.
It's incredible,
right? Like that's what it's.
I'm like, what is he talking about? But I mean, it's okay.
I think what people forget about sometimes with the whole Belichick thing is if you're going to act like Belichick, you better have won like Belichick.
Yeah.
Like you don't get that leeway.
But sometimes I don't know if he knows any better.
He probably doesn't, but like you don't get that leeway at 4-13. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like you better be.
You want him to pull like.
You better be pretty affable at 4-13.
He said affable.
Yeah, we're trying to.
What are you trying to do?
We're trying to educate.
Were you in the locker room? I didn't see you in there.
Wasn't pretty.
It's my favorite Carl Pelini post-game presser ever. Shane, do we still have that?
Carl Pelini?
It's not in the system, no.
What are you trying to do? I wonder who he was talking. It might have been like Sam. It's either Sam or Dirk.
I was going to say, if we have some, speaking of Sam, he'll be on at 8 o'clock this morning. If somebody is getting reprimanded by a coach, it's going to be one of 3 people usually.
Yeah. And that was back in the day.
It's going to be Sam, it's going to be Dirk, or it's going to be Mitch.
Sam doesn't get – I think that's a little bit of a misnomer.
You think so?
Coaches don't check Sam real time.
Okay.
Dirk and Lee are really the only 2 that I've seen get like – and a little Chattel. But it's kind of a misnomer that people clap back at
Sam.
Like real time.
Yeah, that's fair.
They don't get Mitch either.
Maybe I'm thinking more of after they write something. But like in a press conference, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Dirk used to get it all the time, though.
Yeah, and he would give it.
Was that? Yeah, I kind of wonder what it was about Dirk that made people comfortable.
We did a fantastic podcast a couple times, and it was kind of just like dadding it, like different. It wasn't just like sports and stuff, and he was just talking about like the journalistic growth and kind of where he's been and how he approached his business, and he was so introspective, even like real time. I was talked about. It was really good. And he talked about just kind of his growth in the business and kind of how as he started doing less with football, he was less critical. But it wasn't because he was any kinder or gentler. He basically said, well, I'm not around as much, so I don't feel like I've earned it.
Like he's not empowered by...
He's like, I'm just not in it enough to have a strong. I was like, I wish more people thought like that.
Yeah.
Because it's incredibly introspective.
I would have thought
we have people that can't play dead, don't come around, won't do anything. And they have these opinions like word is bond, and it's like, how do you know? You're either reading a box score or reporting somebody else's story. Like, you read it for Pete's sakes. You don't even have like. Wait. Let me hit pause. And it's 69-47 Nebraska. It's like, I can't even take you seriously. I can't.
I would have thought in Dirk's situation that I feel like when you're in it the day to day, everything feels like a big deal, right? That's how I would have.
Yeah, maybe.
Like when you're in the day to day, like when you're a beat writer or you're covering a beat, right? That everything seems like a big deal. Whereas if that's not your main job, you can kind of afford to take a 30,000-foot view of things and be like, oh, I could see how people maybe overreacted to that, or I see maybe that wasn't as big of a deal as people thought, or because we've done this with the transfer portal, right? We were doing this with assistant coaches. We're like, when you're in the day to day of it, right? You're like, oh no, I can't believe they're losing Dante Dowdell or something, right? And it's like, okay, I get that he had a lot of touchdowns this year and he was a productive back for him. But do you look at, would anyone 3 games ago have been like Dante Dowdell irreplaceable? No.
I'm listening. Don't wait for me to.
Well, I thought you were breathing. I thought you might have a response there.
No real hot take. I'm taking in the
that's
information.
Fine. But like we talk about a guy kind of in real time and go, okay, that's a lot of people complained about Dante Dowdell throughout the season, and then he gets in the transfer portal, and all of a sudden the sky's falling that he's leaving. Right? Both things cannot be true. Right? He can't be a guy that you're like, he has no vision. He's always trying to either bounce outside when he should cut up, or he's trying to cut up when he should bounce outside. We had all these complaints about Dante Dowdell, right? And we kind of ignored the fact that he had 12 touchdowns or whatever the number was on the year. And then he gets in the transfer portal, and we're like, oh my God, we're losing 12 rushing touchdowns a year. Like, that's what happens when you're in the minutia day to day. Whereas if you're standing, 30,000-foot view, you can take the perspective of, okay, yeah, he had some nice moments this season. That's not an irreplaceable back.
What are you trying to do?
What I'm trying to do.
Were you in the locker room?
I wasn't in the locker room, DB. I've been in different locker rooms. I wasn't in that locker room.
I think that's funny. There's a lot of sports this weekend.
Why you got Carl up this morning? Was that on your mind?
Yeah, Carl was on my mind.
Yeah, because of that or something else?
Woke up this morning with my mind. It was
what about
State on Freedom, hallelujah.
I don't know that one.
It's a African American hymnal. You probably would not.
I mean, I'm pretty versatile. You don't know.
Been to any AME churches?
I've sang with the Salem Baptist Choir.
That's like I got a black friend. That don't count. What they do? Yeah, you came over on an invite?
No, I did. When I was in college, the choir I was in did like a whole concert with them. Did like a thing
with them.
Particular group, yes. Not those people. Not like a they them.
Oh shoot!
How else would you like me to?
I don't know. It
them
just sounded kind of strange. It's fine though.
With that lovely group of folks in the Salem Baptist Choir, which they were lovely. They were terrific.
Woke up this morning. What? That was the jam.
That was your
Did
jam.
you get the little sway.
Got a little.
Hey,
Is that like I'm doing the Carlton.
No, that would be like Old Boy on Hitch. Don't ever
Stay right here.
Yeah, stay right there.
You ain't got to make pizza. They got food there.
Oh yeah. So I mean, just
I'm not worried about dancing. I got it.
I caught up on Landmark. Watched a lot of wrestling. Watched a little high school hoops.
Okay.
Watched Nebraska. My man Goatney. I listened and watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm pot committed to Coat.
Okay.
And I'm a network guy. But LP is a funny son of a gun. So Putney had the TV broadcast. So I had to rock with Larry a little bit.
Okay.
And I watched women's basketball in a game of runs.
Yeah.
10-0, then up 17, then tied, then finished 11-1. And then I told you, college basketball is drunk.
College basketball is a little drunk.
Yeah.
It's a little intoxicated.
I'm glad. So I had to set it up because DeMarinis is pretty good. Like you can't leave him too much of an opening of any kind of fallacies because
he'll jump on him.
Yeah, like he's in there.
He doesn't let you get. Him and Jacob won't let you get away with.
So
anything.
no, Jacob is. So if DeMarinis is a 6,
yeah,
Jacob's a 12.
I'm not letting you get away with stuff.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah,
0 slides.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, I love you, Damon, because I swear you read my notebooks.
Yeah, I mean, I try, and it'd be pretty extensive.
Yeah,
I could say, man, Lee Robinson, he's 2.4 steals a game. Well, he's like 2.9, almost 3, but yeah, like that's what he would say.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, that's no fun. So yeah, that was
I was watching little hoops. I was a little surprised. I don't know if surprised is the right word. I was surprised by the margin of Iowa State Baylor when I was watching that one.
you're talking about hoops?
Yeah.
Because we're talking about hoops.
Yeah. So I was going to continue talking about hoops.
Yeah. Guess what though?
What's that?
I was watching a couple of replays of bowl games, so I was trying to remember. I was like,
sure.
Yeah, Baylor was bad, but then I was like, wait a minute.
Baylor was bad.
Baylor didn't play Iowa State.
No, they didn't. But Iowa State played Miami. And
Iowa State was good.
Yeah, and Miami didn't have their quarterback the second half because he decided he didn't want to play anymore.
How about all that hand wringing and consternation? Was that not wild?
It was. I didn't mind.
Look at this flat foot pass. He's not even trying.
He's just standing there.
How do you coach this in the NFL? Well, if you're good enough, I'm sure they'll try. You've seen some guys that have had opportunities to play in the league?
Yeah. Looking at you, Anthony Richardson.
Shoot, I cheer for one, and George Pickens.
Yeah.
Is that funny?
Listen, yeah. I gave your franchise credit.
Is that funny? Is that funny?
Yeah, a little bit.
Is that funny that I have to cheer for George Pickens?
Yeah, it's hilarious. It's funny that you have to cheer for George Pickens. It's funny that you have to cheer for LeBron. It's funny that you have to cheer for AD. It's really funny you have to cheer.
AD balled last night.
It's really funny. Yeah, you still don't like him.
No,
it's really funny you have to cheer for Russell Wilson. It's hilarious. All of those things are very funny to me.
So I wonder why when Russell's back foot hits the ground, he just can't throw the ball.
I don't know. Like hits the back foot and his drop and boom goes?
Yeah. Like if you have a speed out for 6 yards to George Pickens and he's wide open.
Probably needs to get out
throw him the ball.
Yep. You're not wrong.
Gosh. NFL was maddening.
Yeah. I didn't have a real good time watching NFL this week.
Yeah, you guys got your head beat in too.
I mean, it wasn't even that. It's just there was some tough.
Do the Niners need to come out and pull a Minnesota where they say we're not trading our coach?
Bring Sam Darnold back? Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
Did you hear that yesterday?
Yeah.
Minnesota. Kevin O'Connell is not on the trade market. That's incredible. This whole Sean Payton thing screwed everything up.
Well, I'm coming in this morning and listening to our guy Pat Costello on Sportsmanlike.
Isn't he hilarious?
He is pretty funny. And
I think he's hilarious.
I don't remember who. I think it was Canty was talking about how people should try and trade for your guy Tomlin.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you out of your mind?
So
in what world would the Steelers ever do that?
This started from somewhere. Either my guy or your guy may want a change of scenery just because. Shanahan and Tomlin.
Why?
I don't know.
You both already know you can win there, right?
My boy Lichty, I got to show you the sweatshirt he had on this weekend.
If you're
he's a huge Steeler.
Especially if you're Tomlin. You think you're going to find a better ownership situation than Pittsburgh?
I don't. So when you make it that linear, no, but so much more goes on.
I understand that.
Stuff like that.
But sometimes, again, this is what we were just talking about, being in the day-to-day. What does that say?
We're just talking.
Disregard the fact he's lobbing me the bird.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, he's Tomlin.
That seems like a shirt that Verge would wear.
How about my other nutty?
Doesn't it?
Look at
that's a Verge shirt. Maybe not with the Steelers, but
that guy Scobie, is he not crazy?
Yeah.
That's a bat signal. Have a shovel.
Got you.
Yep.
It's like the town.
Yep.
Whose car are we taking?
Yeah.
Like no questions. Just let's go.
Yep. 100%.
No, but this is the same thing we're talking about being in the day-to-day granular and taking a 30,000-foot view, right? Like in the day-to-day, it seems silly to be just say, well, you're going to find a better ownership situation, or you're going to find a better front office situation. But
Justin is not happy with Sam Darnold, but keep going.
Sometimes
Sam pulled a Sam, didn't he?
Sometimes you got to take that 30,000-foot view because people leave good situations sometimes because they get frustrated with things that don't really matter. Like we see that happen with people in jobs a lot, where sometimes you do have to remove yourself and just kind of hover above your own situation and be like, okay, what's good about what I've got going on here?
Or have a buddy just be like, hey, stay dialed.
Yeah, or have a buddy just be like, hey, I know you're frustrated about some things right now. Like, let's look at big picture things, right?
Major and a major, minor and a minor.
Yeah, I feel like people do this with relationships a lot too, right? Like they'll get upset with their partner or something over little things that don't really matter because they haven't communicated about them or whatever. But it's like, okay, is this person still a good partner? Do they still support you? Like the big things, are they a good parent, whatever? And you go, okay, yeah, all those things are still true. I probably need to figure out how to get over some of these things or communicate them in a way that we can get better, right? Whereas it's the same thing's true with coaching situations. People get really frustrated with coaching situations, but if you're in the NFL and you've got a good owner, which that's way more rare than I think people realize. And
he's got a great GM.
Right.
I actually think both the aforementioned, because we're talking about Kyle and Mike, they both have tremendous GMs.
I think Lynch is a great GM.
Yeah, and Khan is good too.
And they've both shown to be aggressive when they need to be, but smart about handling the cap. Like they've done really good jobs. I don't know how you look at that situation and go, yeah, I think I'd like it better in Chicago. Because that's the one that came up on the radio this morning was, Chicago needs to make Tomlin say no, make the Steelers say no on Tomlin. If you're Tomlin, is there any way in the world you go from Pittsburgh situation to Chicago's? I don't care. Like, you'd have to have, like, Patrick Mahomes would have to be the quarterback.
If he kept polls, but he would need a new upper management group. But yeah, I'm with you.
You know what I mean? Like, if I get no guarantees about that, Patrick Mahomes better be my quarterback.
100%.
Like, that's full stop.
100%.
You have to have a generational guy, and not Trevor Lawrence generational. I mean, like Patrick Mahomes generational. You better have. There's maybe 3 guys in the league that I'm taking a bad ownership for with a quarterback, and it's Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and I don't know the third one. That's it. That's the list. Because Cincinnati's ownership, low-key, has not been good forever anyway, and Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor have kind of overcome that.
Hey, look at Kobe.
What'd Kobe say?
The last one. I'm telling you, man, you got to be careful out there. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I can't even mess with that, dude.
People that act like they know things that don't know things are dangerous.
It's just wild.
They're dangerous.
There's so many. It's like
there's a lot of them. It's an entire cottage industry.
Who?
Cottage. Like cheese.
Like the little thing you live in?
Like cheese. Yeah. Oh. You know what a cottage industry is?
No.
It's like a small kind of economy based on one like little thing. Like Nebraska football is a cottage.
Oh, where was that derivation from? Where'd you get that? Is that like a?
It's just an old school term. I don't.
Old school for who?
I think it's existed for
cottage. So what is it again?
Cottage industry.
A cottage.
It's like industry. A small economy based around one item. Like Nebraska football is a cottage industry.
Like the premise. Wonder where the derivation came from.
You know what derivatives are?
Hear the words.
Press them.
Pressing.
I feel like you're pressing me right now.
What'd I do? I was nice to you the minute you walked in this morning.
That's a lie.
No, it was.
What was so nice about what?
I was like, hey, that's a great shirt. Look at you.
Thank you. I need to run this through the wash cycle one time.
Why is that?
I don't like the feel.
Oh, the new, yeah.
I need to soften it up.
New shirt feel.
Kind of like my heart.
Yeah, you do. You're so mean sometimes.
Yeah.
Not like me. I'm very, very empathetic. That's what people say about me.
So, dude, our group chat is wild already.
You be you.
I am going to try to be me. So, I just want to go back to college basketball again.
Okay.
Do you have any idea?
Who's good?
Could you come up with 5 good basketball teams?
Confidently, no.
Isn't that weird?
It is strange. Usually I've got a couple where I'm I feel pretty good about this team, feel pretty good about that team. I don't feel that good about anybody.
Do you know Houston and UCLA had similar rankings?
Yeah.
Do they look like the same team?
No.
When Illinois went to Eugene and beat them by 30, did they look like the 22nd ranked team in the country?
No. Illinois is one of the more perplexing teams because on their good nights, they look like
they're incredible.
A top 5 team in the country.
So I got another one for you.
Yeah. I don't feel that good about Kansas either, to be honest.
Who's Indiana? Did you watch them yesterday morning?
You going to get me started on Mike Woodson?
Bro, they were 7 or 8 point dogs. I don't think they trailed after 29.
You want me to get in on Mike Woodson?
I just...
Are we going to do that this morning? We could do it.
Aren't they 14-2 or something?
Yeah, and I still don't trust him as far as I can throw Mike Woodson.
It's just a weird...
It's a super weird. I don't know.
Did you watch anything that was going on at Gamble?
Yeah, a little bit. I was following along with your guys' text, too, with you and Marinas. Yeah.
It's I don't... College basketball is going to be wild.
I have no idea who's good. That's DB. I'm Ravi with more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We're here on the Pillar exterior stage. What's up, DB?
If I would have said that, I'm just saying.
We do.
I don't even know if that's true, but welcome back.
Oh, no, it's a big staple of the diet.
I think we may have to take this to the listeners.
Should we set up the show real quick?
Yeah, well, you threw in Sam.
I threw in Sam because we were talking about Sam McKewon coming up at 8 o'clock. At 9, we've got Ryan Roberts from A to Z Sports going to talk a little college football with us. And then at 10, we will talk to Jarrett Bell.
10?
9:45, not 10. We're not going to be on at 9:45. We're going to talk to Jarrett Bell, who's a columnist for the NFL for USA Today. Continue, DB.
So there's 2 things that are just bugging me.
We were having a little off-air conversation, as we do from time to time.
Because I just... It just could be me. Sometimes I'm a little too principled.
Okay.
But if you love cinnamon rolls. So my question to you was...
So I'm rocking a gas station pre-made cinnamon roll this morning.
And I was like, wow, that's a heck of a crapshoot on something that is close to one of God's greatest gifts.
So a couple things were happening this morning. Number 1.
Is it fair or foul?
No, fair. I love cinnamon
So if
rolls.
you love cinnamon rolls, why wouldn't you be more discriminatory?
So a couple things were happening this morning. Number 1, this was not my first choice.
Okay.
This was not what I walked into the gas station planning to get. Normally they have, they have the donut display, and I'll grab a couple donuts and I'll come in.
Okay.
There were no donuts this morning. Not the kind I didn't want. They did not have a single donut in the
kids must be going back to school, man.
I don't know.
They need breakfast.
I don't know if the delivery was late or what. There was not a single donut.
After Snowmageddon, delivery wasn't late.
There was not a single donut in the gas station. So I go, okay, well that's not a great way to start the day here. And so I was looking for Pop-Tarts. I like Pop-Tarts.
Oh my God.
I know.
It's getting worse by the second.
I really like Pop-Tarts.
Okay.
Not just the bowl game.
Okay.
But I couldn't find Pop-Tarts in there either. I was like, okay, we don't have donuts, we don't have Pop-Tarts. I can't sit here all day trying to figure out what to eat.
Incredible.
And so I'm in the area where they should have had Pop-Tarts, and I look right in front of me, and we've got the cinnamon roll. And I was like, it looks pretty good.
Did you touch it?
Yeah. You get a little squeeze, make sure it wasn't rock hard,
Okay.
And I was like, okay, that's pretty squishy.
It doesn't look good.
It's not bad. But here, to answer your question. So this was not the plan, right? This is not the breakfast we intended to have this morning.
Okay.
But here we are. Okay. Had to make the best out of a less than ideal situation.
I did my best.
And my blood sugar was not at a point where I could skip breakfast this morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right, we got to get something. So we went with this because I didn't want to do like the little prepackaged donuts and so I went with the cinnamon roll. It's not bad. I'm not disappointed in my decision. But to answer your question about if you love something, should you be more discerning about it? There's two categories for me. There's some things like this. You're going to make fun of me for this. But
98% chances.
Yeah,
that's true.
So I really love creme brulee.
Oh, God.
There's basically only one place where I will eat that. Well, I'll eat creme brulee because it's so good. It has ruined all other creme brulee.
Can you just be a normal person?
I cannot, and you're aware of this.
I really like creme brulee.
It's so good.
That's like your okay, fine.
That's my one that it's so good at this very specific place that I can't eat it anywhere else.
Okay.
Because it makes me mad that it's not that thing.
Oh, creme brulee.
It's really good, man.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you where it's from because then you're really going to make fun of me. But there are other things like I also really love hot dogs. And I know where like the really good hot dogs are versus like the subpar hot dogs.
Uh-huh.
But a subpar hot dog is still pretty good, and I'm pretty happy to eat it still most of the time.
Okay.
It's kind of like pizza. Like I really love really good pizza. I know you don't like pizza at all, but I really love really good pizza. But like I'll kind of mess around with some Little Caesars sometimes too.
It on the surface, it seems like the more I like something, the less apt I am to just
put up with foolishness.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I'm like that with cheese. I'm like, I haven't ordered a steak out.
Oh, yeah.
Not even New York did I order a steak.
Because you don't get to control, like, your cut. You don't get to look at, like, you
just the last 4 or 5 years, like, the more I've done it, the less risk I'm willing to take.
That's fair. I get that. That's the creme brulee. For me,
I would be like that with almost I don't know anything that I like universally enough where I would I'm like that with
yeah.
If you didn't make the rice joke early, I would not come back with this. But I'm like that with fried chicken. The rice thing was
I'm stunned to find that out. That you ate rice last night. You haven't been eating carbs. That's what I'm stunned to find out.
Yeah, so it was in the jambalaya, and that's the other time that I had it was when I had sushi.
Yeah.
And New York, and I tried to get I substituted brown rice.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it didn't stay together.
Yeah.
It's still good, but it didn't. And you go, well, I think you got to go with the sticky. And I go, well, how come you can't make brown rice sticky?
Yeah, so I believe... I'm fairly certain that brown rice is brown because there's like a husk around it, around the grain of rice, and the rice itself is what's sticky and the husk is not. That's what changes the color.
And I asked you, you just have that in the Rolodex. Like, how do you know so much about rice?
I'm from a people that eats a lot of rice.
So
Indians eat a lot of rice.
I got one follow-up, and then we'll move on.
I doubt it, but yeah, go ahead.
You always kind of pick and choose when
I'm Indian.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for letting me off the hook. Because any other time, I ask you a question. Well, I don't like you, man. But this morning, you're very educational, informational, and you rest on the fact that I'm Indian. I eat a lot of rice, man. Now, if I would have said that,
well, see, that's the difference. Is when you make an assumption that I should know, let's say, Hindi.
That wasn't the assumption.
You know what that guy's saying?
I said, do you know anything that the guy is saying?
Yeah, when you make an assumption that I should know something because I'm Indian, that's different than me acknowledging that I know something, and it's because Indian people, like my father and myself,
like I love steak, but I wouldn't just eat it from anywhere because I love steak.
That's because bad steak is really bad.
So are bad cinnamon rolls.
I tend to disagree a little bit.
That's incredible.
I'm less picky on cinnamon rolls.
Is your wife a pastry chef?
She is, yeah. She doesn't cook me anything.
Well, you just put any old kind of dough in your mouth?
No.
I almost said yeast, but that would not have gone over well. Oh, sorry.
DB has to take a minute. He needs a breather there. That's all. There are certain food items I'm very discerning about. Yeast being one of them.
Almost threw up.
There are other food items.
Sorry, Bill.
Like pizza and hot dogs and apparently cinnamon rolls that I'm less picky about.
Okay.
There's hot dogs,
Knock it off.
pizza, cinnamon rolls.
Okay.
I am but I'm very discerning about other things, like creme brulee, apparently. That's the only one I can think. No, steak. I'm not with steak. I'm not going to eat a bad steak. I'm just not going to.
Yeah.
Like, there's certain establishments that serve steak that I'm never going to order a steak there.
Yeah.
If you don't specialize in that, I'm probably not ordering a steak there. I don't want to throw anywhere under the bus. But you okay?
Mm-hmm.
You gonna be all right? You gonna make it today?
Sometimes I just say things.
You cannot put that down.
Can't put that down. My bad.
It's all right. It's all right. We're still here.
Oh, it's amazing, Daniel. It's too early for this. I know. The whole live radio thing is just like a debacle.
Yeah.
All right. So, excuse me.
So how was that jambalaya?
It was incredible.
I really like jambalaya.
No, I'm not just saying that. Like,
No, yeah.
although I live with somebody that literally flicked the shrimp out that I seared separately so it got the nice color before I added it at the last 2-3 minutes.
I mean, first, I love shrimp, so I'm going to be mad about people picking around shrimp anyway.
Yeah.
But that's upsetting.
Yeah, that was Caleb. Any guess?
It sounds like something Zoe would do.
No, Zoe just had white rice.
Okay.
This little girl ate white rice, save the jokes, watermelon, and strawberry.
At least it wasn't grape. It can be messy. Grapes can be messy. And if she drops one, the dogs feed it. That's bad for them. That's why I said good thing it's not grapes. It's bad for the dogs.
Shesterkin when he comes off IR, kick save and a beauty. Grapes are not messy, by the way.
No, bad for dogs. If you bite into one though, they can be a little messy.
Nice try.
Bad for dogs though. I don't even let grapes come in my house.
Nice try.
Gotta be careful there. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We will perhaps be back after the break if nobody gives us a call here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Good morning. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. My last couple texts this morning were, number one, you guys are unhinged. Number two, glad nothing has changed. And then verification from my once boss, the great AD John Hood.
All the way Hood.
Oh, yeah, I used to sing I'm So Hood to that dude all the time.
That's fine.
Every time I'd see him, I'm so hood, all the time.
Let's not do that again.
The whitest guy on the planet. Salt of the earth. Terrific dude.
Just salt.
Yeah, just no pepper. All salt of the earth, no pepper of the earth.
So closer to Robin Hood, right?
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Not boys in the.
Lean on me.
Yeah, exactly. Smoke crack, don't you?
No. Oh.
He sent verification. I used to work with Hood at Grace.
Okay.
Before things went sideways.
Trust me, I don't have the fondest memories of that place either.
We should have a support group. I think it all revolves around the same person.
Wow. Wow.
He sent me verification that QT is having some sort of donut crisis because he does not live in the same part of town I do.
Is that the one who sent the picture?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe maybe something happened with the shipment because that case was empty.
Yeah, that's what mine looked like, and I was like, "Bruh, what are we doing here?" And
do they know how many hardworking?
I know everybody
Midwesterners are going back to work this morning.
Everybody that's in the QT that time of morning, besides me, is obviously like somebody who works very hard.
So how can I would say I shouldn't say how because obviously your health matters, but the huge amounts of sugar intake in the morning are incredible.
Yeah, so a lot of it, my blood sugar tends to be low in the morning.
Why don't you get the you know how they have the strawberry and blueberry glazed, I think it's Hostess. They look similar to the ones that
glazed
Cracky Creams
donuts, or
yes, they're like the jumbo. There's 2 in the package. So why don't you get those?
I saw those, and I saw the strawberry, and I didn't want a flavor on my donut. I'm not a big flavored donut guy. It's pretty hit and miss.
Okay.
And so I was like, I didn't want to take that. I was more willing to roll the dice on the cinnamon roll.
You're principled with sugar, but you eat like knockoff peanut butter and Ritz. Like, have you not seen some of the things that you bring to eat?
What? I didn't bring off knockoff Ritz.
What are the little peanut butter sandwich things that you eat?
I eat Nutter Butters.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking
about. That's not a knockoff though. That's brand name.
That's not peanut butter.
Well, it is a Nutter Butter. Shane, you pipe down over there.
But you just okay, it's fine.
Nutter Butters are good. The Ritz crackers are good that I bring in sometimes.
Okay.
Listen. I already know I like those, so I'm in. I don't know. I haven't had the flavored donut, the prepackaged flavored donuts, so I don't know if I like those. I was more willing to roll the dice
on a cinnamon roll.
On the cinnamon roll.
That looks like if you could.
It's fine.
That right there looks like you could get about 87 on the jugs off the bump.
That's just because I got a cannon.
Like that doesn't even look edible.
No, it's squishy. Look, see? Squishy.
Okay, that's weird.
Don't.
You
don't want me to squish my buns on TV here?
Selfish.
What? I was more willing to roll the dice on the cinnamon roll than the donuts. That's where I landed.
It's fine.
I'm not saying it was a good decision, but it was a decision.
With your C4 and Diet Coke.
Yeah, so I was out of Diet Coke at the house this morning.
Yeah, so
which was a tragedy.
Bowl game morning?
Yeah.
Jessica was cleaning out her bag, like her backpack.
How many Diet Cokes you have in there?
None.
Oh, okay.
But she does have like a lot of she's like Walgreens when it comes to like electrolytes and lotion and batteries and stuff like that.
So I'm the other section of Walgreens. I got like Tylenol, Advil.
So she's like, hey, I have some of these packets. And one of them was a C4 packet.
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen them.
Yeah.
And I normally, like, if I'm going to do it, I have these other tablets that I take that I think are probably a little healthier.
Nah.
But I was like, oh, it's 6:20 Eastern Standard Time. I'll take the C4. Lane could barely get through his open. Shh, simmer. Sit down. Sit down. Stop talking.
Make it a little squirrely.
Man, my face itched.
Oh, yeah. If you're not used to it, your face will itch a little bit.
I was like, these work.
It's just the knot. Well, you know what? It's actually a misnomer.
Okay. This is
a
Who is this talking to me? Because I don't want to infer and have you think I'm slighting you.
This is former meathead Ravi.
Okay.
So the ingredient that they put in C4 and a lot of other pre-workout drinks that makes your face itch is actually niacin, which doesn't really do anything besides make your face itch. It kind of flushes your skin a little bit, but because it feels like it's working, they put it in these drinks because they're like, oh man, I'm feeling kind of itchy and like good to go. So it's a physical thing that actually doesn't do anything in terms of waking you up or making you perform better or anything. It's supposed to mimic beta-alanine, which actually does do stuff. It kind of primes your body to work out, but you have to have so much beta-alanine in there to actually give you that effect that they kind of cut it with the niacin to be able to put less beta-alanine in there and still make you feel like something's happening. That's
interesting.
That's meathead Ravi for this morning.
Nebraska must have had that in this weekend playing defense.
I had a lot of I did a lot of research on supplements and things like that.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Back in the day.
I thought I was the human lab rat.
Well, listen, I'm
back in the day
an Indian guy that ended up being pretty strong. Like, that doesn't happen like super naturally. I don't know if you've seen a lot of other Indian dudes at the gym.
Kegs and eggs and football. Let's go.
They're not built exactly like I am. Tend to be a little narrower of frame.
What are they, taller?
Nope. I'm.
Hey, speaking of
I'm-
which,
I'm
were
a-
you surprised that Nebraska out UCLA?
I'm a giant from Indian terms. Not really.
I am. I did say the first to 50 to win. I should have changed it to 40, but
Nebraska has had this in them though.
yeah, that's a really good defensive team.
It's a really good defensive team, and honestly, I got to give Hoiberg a ton of credit because this is not who he was.
Dude, Kobe's on the Nutter Butter train.
Dude, Nutter Butters are great. In terms of just a little,
I don't want to get distracted. It's fine.
because that would be different.
Going back with my man Coatney.
I don't even recognize what we're doing.
He's a big Fairbury guy, I've heard.
He's great.
No, I have to give Hoiberg a ton of credit because I didn't think he had this in him. Like when he got here and struggled the first few years, I didn't think he had this pivot, totally different style of team, totally different style of recruiting, totally different style of play.
I talked to him for a while.
I didn't think he had this in him. Like, I'm really impressed.
There is kind of this duality to him.
The last
like
2
you
years.
said, I like chopped because he kind of has always believed this though. It was the capability to do so.
Yeah, and I didn't know he had believed this. I basically
Like
just
he
went
is
off of
very, very, very aware of the transition.
Yeah.
And cognizant of the evolution.
Well, I think he had to, right? Otherwise, he wasn't going to last. I mean, if we're being real, if something didn't change, he would not have still been the head coach here 2-3 years later.
Yeah.
Right? Like he was at an inflection point in his career with Nebraska, and if he didn't figure out how to adjust in real time, he wouldn't still be here. And I have to give him a ton of credit for that because, like I said, I didn't know he was capable of this. The last couple of years especially have been the most coherent rosters he's put together at Nebraska. Not the most talented rosters probably, because there were some years where they weren't very good, that they had pretty good talent on the roster. It just didn't make any sense together. The last 2 years, he's put together really...
He can put some different lineups on the floor, and I like it because they defend.
Yeah, at a really high level. Like, they've got guys that are kind of menaces.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Juwan Gary's a menace.
So, and then you look up, and it's like Indiana wins on the road at Penn State.
Yep.
Right. Maryland gives Oregon all they want on the road. I still can't, and we're going to figure it out because Nebraska over this next 4-game stretch is. So who is it? It's Iowa.
I'm bringing it up here.
It's Iowa, Rutgers, Maryland, and somebody else. Not in that order. So it's Iowa.
I'm trying to find it. I'm
I think it's Iowa, Rutgers, Maryland, and somebody. They got to go 2-2.
Iowa at Purdue.
Purdue, that's it.
Home against Rutgers at Maryland.
Because I still don't know who Purdue is either.
I don't either.
And I get it. They
I don't think
dropped
Purdue
Northwestern
knows.
yesterday.
I don't think Purdue knows who they are.
Sleepy 1 p.m. tip yesterday.
Those are dangerous. You got to watch out for those.
Those suck.
Like early Sunday tips are weird.
And I wouldn't necessarily call that early. It's just,
I mean,
you should have been at PBA watching the ladies, Penn State.
I was at home watching football, and
there weren't even any good games.
No, there weren't. It was not a great experience.
Oh, I was happy to. So now I'm back to liking Aaron Rodgers again.
What happened this time?
Guys this is dumb, but I'm honest. Guys were giving him hugs, so I was like, oh, maybe he's not such a.
Or maybe he is, and they're like, get this guy out the door. Thank God the season's over.
But he was like getting unsolicited hugs. Is that weird?
Yeah, that is weird.
It's fine. Whatever. Judge.
That's the piece of cheese, right? Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, back to my personality.
Turd sandwich, turd sandwich, turd sandwich, turd sandwich, turd sandwich. Somebody hugs him. Piece of cheese. Right on top of there. You're like, oh, that's pretty good cheese, though. I know it's covering a whole pile of turd sandwich, but man, that's a nice piece of Swiss. I get that.
Shay, do you think he thinks he's slick that I know he's talking about me, but he makes it seem like he's not?
Oh, I was directly talking about you. I wasn't trying to hide that. That's just your personality in a nutshell. Aaron Rodgers has been a turd for how many years? And you're like, oh, they gave him hugs. I think I like him again. He must not be that bad of a guy. You ever hug somebody you don't like that much, DB? I bet you have. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are joined now by our friend Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, what's going on?
Hey, man. How are you guys?
Good. Are you on the move?
No.
All right. So
I'm just I'm stationary and cold.
What was the precip? Did you get any? Because Snowmageddon missed us, but I know some people got buried.
Omadome, baby.
Yeah, 1.5 inches here, and then I think to the south of about that over Saturday and Sunday night, and then I think people to the south got a lot more.
Fall City got like a foot
than we did. A foot, yeah. So it was a tight bands of snow up from central Missouri or wherever it was. So I feel for those folks down there. I'm sure that
weather is fascinating. It must have snowed in like a 2-inch slot.
Yeah, the band of the heavy snow was like really narrow.
That is crazy.
That happens sometimes, and that'll. I'm guessing the city of Omaha is okay with not receiving a foot of snow. So, you hope the people out down there in southeast Nebraska are still, shoveling out and all the rest.
All right. Yesterday, would you rather have been Caleb Williams going forward or Sam Darnold? They kind of look like the same person. No, people are hard on Sam Darnold from last night. I don't know, man. His teammates didn't help him out a ton either.
It's because we've seen too much of the other Sam Darnold. So anytime something bad happens, we're afraid it's coming back, I think.
You think last night was more about Detroit or Minnesota?
It's about Detroit for sure. Yeah, they played on defense. They played great, and their head coach the defensive coordinator is probably going to get some interviews here in the next couple of weeks. Today is the day, when most of the coaches who are going to get fired. Gerard Mayer already did, and then you're going to see a few others.
Doug Peterson out.
Right. Aaron Glenn will probably get one of those jobs. There's only 32 of them, so they're in high demand, and I'm guessing the Detroit offensive and defensive coordinators will get.
See, I think Ben Johnson. I said this before, and I know Cynthia and I kind of went round and around Freeland, and she disagreed with me a couple months ago. I think Ben Johnson stays.
He might. Depends on the quality of the jobs that are out there, and the situations that present themselves. That's probably what the breaking line is. Like who wants to stay, and what are the jobs that are available. The Bears will be available, obviously, and the Patriots are available, and the Jaguars are available, and I don't know, there'll be a couple more today. I'm not even sure. Maybe the Giants. Again, there's only 32 of them, so the idea that you're going to get, a perfect job, there's not very many of those. One day Andy Reid will retire, and he'll probably decide who gets to succeed him. So, it should be. You should not necessarily be able to get a great job as a head coach right away. You have to fall into those a little bit. So we'll see what happens. So, but Detroit's the slight favorite, probably going into the playoffs to win the Super Bowl, but not by much. I think Kansas City and Buffalo and Baltimore are right there, and then the Philadelphia Eagles are probably right there as well.
Sam, are you surprised at all kind of with what we're talking about head coaching job situations that, there's, I don't know if they're even rumors, just speculation about guys like Mike Tomlin, people maybe making a play for him based on how Pittsburgh's season ended, Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, some of those guys that are reasonably well regarded, and a guy like Tomlin especially in a really good position in terms of ownership, front office, that whole thing. Like, are you surprised that there's even seeming consideration for that when you look at not to pour salt on, but a franchise like the Bears that has largely not been effectual in the front office and in ownership? Like, do you think people appreciate how good a good ownership situation can be for them?
I think that, if you're talking about Mike Tomlin taking a different job within the NFL, one of the things that I think is sort of a tough spot for Tomlin is that his teams are always so good that they really have a hard time drafting an elite quarterback. And so, they have not been able to get that player. And, Baltimore got that player in Lamar Jackson, I think at 27 or 28 or 32 or wherever they drafted him. But usually you have to draft within the top 15, and the Steelers don't usually do that. And so I think what you've seen from them is they have all the other pieces, but they they don't have. They had to trade for Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson, Damon, I'm sure you were watching the game on Saturday night or caught up with it if you didn't.
Unfortunately.
And, Russell Wilson makes a bizarre, scrambles and, waste time and slides when he shouldn't have. And, so I think one of the challenges when you're in that position, and Vrabel was in this position with the Titans too, is you just never really bottom out. And so what happens is you don't really ever get an opportunity to get Jaden Daniels. He never falls to you. And so Tomlin either has to trade for that player, and of course trades are always really tricky. And they probably could have went and got Kirk Cousins last year, but look at Cousins. He's already been benched. So, I could see why he might want to go somewhere else and have a chance at a young quarterback. I don't know if Caleb Williams is the guy that he'd want to work with, but there's always that. There's always that possibility that an accomplished coach would want to go somewhere where he knew he was going to work with somebody who was 22 and the best days of his quarterbacking were ahead of him. And that's not true of Russell Wilson. And I've watched enough of Justin Fields to know that that's also not true of Justin Fields. God bless him. He's a great athlete and a hard worker, but if he were the answer in Pittsburgh, he'd be playing now, and he is not.
I'm not going anywhere without draft capital or a quarterback.
Right.
I mean,
or a young quarterback. Yeah, young one.
I don't know. Sure. I mean, I'd take functional at this point because the only reason I'm not like all in on that is, I'd take Stafford every day that ends in Y. I'd take Baker Mayfield yesterday. Right. So I think age is kind of relative to how a guy's playing. I mean, shoot, Darnold's only 27 and there's going to be consternation over whether to lock him up long term or not. You know what I mean? So I think it's more about kind of their operation within what they're doing, because they're hard pressed to find anybody but playing better than Mayfield over the last half of the season. You know what I mean? And he's not exactly a spring chicken.
Right. So if you wanted to go get a job, you could, in theory, you could go to the Giants, and you know that you're going to get either Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. And
I don't think there's a first-round quarterback, though. Do you, Sam? They'll draft him, but like, I haven't graded like as a draft professional. I don't know if there'd be a first-round grade. I think Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward are considered. I would take both of those football players over Drake May. Not Drake a snowball's chance in heck, Sam.
I would.
No way.
Yeah.
Drake May would be the odds. McCarthy would be slotted higher than Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward this year, I bet. Are you serious?
Well, again, yes, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't know. I mean, I can understand people thinking Shedeur Sanders is well, he does this or he does that. I mean, I've watched a lot of Cam Ward and I've watched a lot of Drake May, and I think Cam Ward's a solid player. I think Drake May is a great athlete. The comp, I suppose, is Justin Herbert. I don't know if he's ever going to become Justin Herbert. He could easily become some other really big athlete that doesn't pan out. Yeah, I think Cam Ward is can go win you playoff games, and Sanders is probably a polarizing player, but I think he's pretty good. Now, not everybody agrees with that. Certainly, that's certainly understandable. Some people will be like, yeah, we're not going to take him. But I would be one of the people that would say, you'd take him with this caveat with Shedeur. When you go to the NFL, you are going to run more than you did in college because he is a better runner than he ran in college. Like, I think Sanders is a good runner and just didn't run much because that's not what he wanted to do.
That might be one of those things, too, where it's like, man, if I get hurt, we're screwed. And he may not think like that in the future.
Right. He's a pretty talented scrambler and runner, and who is not a runner in college but became a pretty good one in the pros. Like Danny, whatever his last name is, Dimes with the Giants. He was a better runner than people realize. I'm not saying that, that Sanders is that good or whatever. But yeah, like I would say Drake May was the one last year, and J.J. McCarthy, your mileage varies on him dependent on whether you think he's going to translate all those skills to the pros because he didn't throw that much in college. But, I think Jim Harbaugh does a pretty good job of developing players. So, I think J.J. McCarthy's a good player.
Maybe
I wouldn't have.
Maybe Stroud a little bit is more elusive, I think, in the pocket than coming out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he showed
Stroud's really
flashes.
good,
Remember that last game against Georgia. It's like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, where'd that come from?
This guy can run? Really? Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. I would say, Cam Ward's a high volume player. He doesn't really get hurt. He's thrown a lot of passes. Big guy, doesn't, seems pretty durable. I don't think he's Ben Roethlisberger per se, but he's got a lot. I think he's good. So if you want a Cam Ward and you were a Mike Tomlin and said, I want to go work with that guy, then which job you got to take. Probably the Giants. Or, I don't know. Cam Ward could go first overall. I'm hoping, the Bears have an offer. The Bears and the Browns are my two teams because I'm married to a Browns fan. I hope one of them gets Travis Hunter, but we'll see what happens.
We're talking with Sam McKewon of the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, switching gears to Nebraska here. Obviously, had some news over the weekend with Ed Foley moving on or being moved on or one of those things as special teams coach. Where do you think Nebraska looks to replace him? I know people always have names they throw out there, but do you have an idea of what you'd like to see there?
Yeah, you know what? I instead of going with names, because I think there's a lot of people that put the same two names out there, and that's fine. What I'll say is that I think you have to think about the head coach. What does he want the special teams philosophy to be? And then once you do that, you have to have the vision, and then you have to have the approach that matches that. And so Nebraska, from Matt Rule's perspective, I think wants to be a very aggressive a special teams unit that makes a lot of plays, and that's fine. I think that's great, and you're going to have to put the commensurate amount of planning and approach and teaching around that and really emphasize it, and the head coach has to be part of that emphasis. Not that he wasn't before, but I think they probably will fix some of the issues that they had with a different snapper. And that snapper was going to play here, whether Ed Foley was the coordinator or not. So that may resolve some of the things that they have to do. And I think more of the concern is on the return unit and whether they can become a more consistent team returning the football, especially on punts. And that's an area where I think Nebraska can grow. There's a lot of different guys you could hire. Obviously, there's been two names that have put out there that have coached at Nebraska before. And again, that's fine if that's the direction that Rule wants to go in. I think it's more a question of, Rule's overall vision for that unit and what he wants to execute there. I don't know that Scott Frost necessarily had a complete and cohesive vision about that, or at least he never expressed that to us. And his predecessor, Mike Riley, kind of left it up to, his guys to do it. The last coach that really had sort of that vision was Bo Pelini in his last year, when he's like, well, I'm just going to take over this, this, and this. And those units got better as a result. So I'll be curious to see if Matt Rule, divvies it up, coach to coach, or if he has an oversight guy that handles the whole thing. I know this. I know they want to get a little bit better punting the football, irrespective of the blocks. I know they want to get better returning the ball. And I think they've got their field goal kicker in John Hull. They feel like he's gonna go ahead and turn the corner as a kicker and be their guy. So we'll see where it goes.
What's going to be interesting is I think his staff is set up where freelance is not the word I'm looking for, but Coach Rule can roam and put his fingerprints on whatever part he really wants to, I think, for the first time because of his staff's makeup, right? If he wants to spend some time on D-line, he can. If he wants to learn more about the secondary, he can. If he wants to get after, special teams in the block unit, he can, because he has really high-level thinkers and confidants now on both the offensive and defensive sides of the ball.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think it's a strong staff from an experience standpoint, and it really does come down to, again, Matt Rule's going to have a wide spectrum of just a wide group of people from which to pick a special teams coordinator. He is not going to be limited to 4 names. I'm sure he would have 100 options. So he can pick the person who best fits, his style, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a name. It doesn't have to be a tie to here. It can be a lot of different kinds of situations. So,
well, the guy that I wanted him to hire just got the head job at South Dakota State, so that came and went in a hurry.
Right. And congratulations to him. That's a
heck of a job, man. He didn't even have a chance to get any mail. I mean, between a Vandal and a Lobo and now a Rabbit. He did say, though, Sam, he would get me an apartment in Sioux Falls and I could drive back and forth halfway. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, that is Sioux Falls is a fine city, and no, it is. It's really nice. So enjoy Brookings, and they're going to have a great team next year, even though their quarterback is leaving for somewhere. I don't know, Iowa or somewhere, but
yeah,
they'll be right in the mix.
I told him, like, the minute he might have just been pulling up, and I said, the number one thing you got to do, and I don't even think he was aware of it quite yet, just because he was, you're getting ready to, you're negotiating, right? You had 24 hours, but I'm like, you got to find a way to keep Bryce Hawthorne. It's a D lineman that I wanted Nebraska to go get that just committed to Iowa. I said, that first and foremost, that's the guy you got to keep in the fold, but it's going to be amazing how many of those guys are going to be on the move. We'll see some guys tonight with Montana State and North Dakota State that will be highly, highly coveted post the game tonight that I think is going to be really interesting because that game will be played at a high level.
It will, and I love that it's on a Monday night.
Me too. It's their own night.
Everybody to see. And you're right. There's going to be a lot of college coaches watching that game and scouting, basically. And it'll be, Montana State's like a 3-point favorite, and I think they might pull out that game. They're very good, and so, but they've been a fine team. And some of these FCS teams, including South Dakota State, they have facilities and training tables and things that
are legit.
Exceed a lot of Group of 5 programs, and might even exceed a couple of power conference programs. I couldn't speak intelligently to every power conference team, but South Dakota State's got a great setup and it's a good job. That's why guys who go there are able to go to other places and get head coaching jobs because they learn how to coach at a really high level at South Dakota State. And then now Dan Jackson going back there, he could go on a 5-year run and we could very easily see him somewhere in the FBS. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's how that goes because South Dakota State's just a high level operation.
Yeah, there's a lot of Jackson Williams and Sharma. Well, I guess we call him Marty, but I mean, that's a lot of good players. And if you read some of the reports to what you said about kind of amenities and what some of these schools have to offer, do you believe, you don't probably have any reason to not, but like the shoestring budget and bowl game budget and stuff that like Colorado was on versus like BYU, and it's just amazing how we make a lot of assumptions, man, but like money's money at some of these places, and it's hard to overcome.
Very much so. I think there's a lot of schools that don't, especially the ones that have to travel more than they ever have before. I mean, Colorado's travel budget probably went down when they moved back to the Big 12, but you look at a school like Cal. And Cal's an incredible institution for 100 different reasons that aren't related to athletics. But, I mean, California's athletic department, and I'm sure, is taking a massive travel hit. And so, those schools are losing money on the travel front. It's not like they got some big windfall to join the ACC. So, it's those things are a little bit tough. Actually, hindsight being 2020, I wonder if Cal and Stanford are really like I think they're happy to be affiliated with the ACC related to the academics. I just think it's going to cost them a lot of money to be affiliated with schools that are academically on the same level for the sake of athletics. That's going to be tough for those two institutions. Because when Stanford, which is one of the great athletic departments in some of the Olympic sports, has to go to a conference championship, they're not going to go to San Francisco for swimming. They're going to go to God only knows where the ACC championships are. So it's just going to be a different experience. And I think a lot of these power schools are going through that. Whereas, a South Dakota State, which should stay in FCS and probably will, is probably very content to, travel to Brookings. Well, they're in Brookings. Travel to Vermilion and Cedar Falls, Fargo, some of the other schools in the Missouri Valley and clean up and do really well, and at the same time not have to spend $1 million to do it.
Sam, let me ask you something with basketball and Coach Hoiberg and obviously the fantastic staff, the job the staff's doing. Are the next four with Iowa and Purdue and Rutgers and Maryland, are you to the point now where you're thinking, okay, they've got to go blank and blank in this stretch, or like 2-2 out of the next four, or are you still, it's early enough where you're like, man, just get Iowa? Like, where are you with an expectation level for basketball, given they kind of have shown who I think they're going to be?
I think it's a variable answer, and in that, tell me what your expectation is, and I'll tell you what I think of what they need to do. If I think the Nebraska basketball fan expectation is NCAA tournament berth and maybe a win in the tournament and everything else is gravy. And so if you're telling me that, then, wins over Iowa and Rutgers keep you on the same path. Heck, a win over Rutgers keeps you on the same path. I don't think a loss at Iowa is going to hurt you too much. But if you're hungry for more and you're hungry for, okay, yeah, it's a team whose sum is greater than its parts, but why not Nebraska? Why can't they make a run at being, top 5 in the league or top 3 in the league like last year? Then you want to see them win at Iowa, battle at Purdue. That's a hard place to win. Beat Rutgers and go win at Maryland in front of 9,000 fans, because that's about how many fans Maryland has at its team. So, you want to see them make a run, and they have an opportunity. None of these teams are great, and only one of them has a great home court advantage. So Nebraska has every opportunity to continue to make a push for being one of the top teams in the league. After you beat UCLA, you can claim that you're one of the top teams in the league for sure.
That's Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, we appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Sam.
All right. Take care.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back. Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage, reminding you, if you're driving into work, even though we didn't get any snow, keep those eyes focused and straight ahead. Your job as the driver is to drive. Don't get distracted. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. I know we do.
Why'd you leave my window down?
I didn't do anything, DB. I don't have keys to your car, right? I know I have your garage pad code and everything, but I don't actually drive your car or anything like that.
Did you know that you could drive a vehicle without the fob?
I did not know that.
Yeah. So did you see the lady that got her vehicle stolen with her dog in there?
No, that's horrifying.
She's on 33rd and Cass, maybe, or somewhere like that. She ran in to get a coffee and left her car running because it was too cold for
Sonic the dog.
It was Sonic, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Good.
Look at Shane paying attention to local news.
So she had the fob in her hand,
but it was already started and everything.
Because, and I guess it dings at you, but I didn't know if you could put it into gear.
Yeah, I would have thought you couldn't have put. Maybe it depends on what car, because I don't think you can put my car into gear without
the fob.
Yeah.
Even if it's running?
Yeah. I don't think you can go anywhere.
Yeah, I wish I could say something, but
the degree to which I would John Wick somebody if they stole my car with one of my dogs in it.
Yeah. Did I tell you when I used to drive I had a Mazda 626?
I would go hard.
Old, and I pulled into the gas station on 72nd and Grover. Left it running. Just ran in there.
Was that BP?
I don't know what it used to be, but it's not as nice as the one that it is now.
Okay.
This was 2001.
Okay.
2000. and came out to no car.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, 9:30 at night.
Yeah.
That thing. I mean, it was in a hurry. I was, me.
You were in and out too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, God, where'd I leave my car?
Yeah.
I was like, oh shoot. So I took that thing.
How long did it take you to realize somebody stole your car?
Well, 2 minutes.
Where you're like, oh no, this is where I parked. It's
And
gone.
it was left in the parking lot at Thomas Jefferson High School in Council Bluffs.
Wonder what they were doing.
I don't know.
Apparently, so this is kind of funny. So the place where I go and play tennis on Fridays, the front desk guy apparently had his car stolen. They didn't take anything. They actually filled his gas tank up. It got found like a week later. Literally, it seems like all they did was hotbox in that thing and then leave it somewhere and ditch. Do you know what hotbox is, right? Okay, so
When you put somebody's head under the covers?
no, that's a different thing.
Okay.
I don't think I can say that term on the air. It's a little insensitive.
Okay.
So people that have a certain recreational, they do what Shane do, but with different substances.
Okay, get it.
They'll people that smoke weed will get in a car and like roll all the windows up and like they keep all the smoke in the car to like
some Cheech and Chong type stuff?
Yeah. That's called hotboxing.
Oh.
So literally the people that stole this guy's car just like hotboxing. It smelled terrible and then left it somewhere. Otherwise, it was totally fine. They didn't take a thing. They filled it up with gas.
Did I tell you about the rental car that I got?
That's so weird.
Smelled like weed. And I was going to Fayetteville, and so I didn't want to perpetuate any myths.
Yeah, any stereotypes.
So took the car back.
You'd be like, hey, give me a different one that doesn't smell like weed.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Was not gonna roll the dice.
I'm 1,000,000% would do that. I'd be like,
Fayetteville, it turned out to be such an easy drive. Like I was kind of paranoid.
was it like 5 hours?
6 maybe?
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
Our old friend has made that trip a couple times for Nebraska baseball. One of our friends. One of our mutual admiration club.
Oh, I like him, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that guy?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, he's made that trip a couple times.
He's funny.
I did a show with him once. He was in a sketchy hotel room in Fayetteville.
Yeah.
And I was like, I legit thought he was going to be murdered while we're doing the show together. It was sketchy.
Yeah, they love their hogs.
Yeah, they do.
That place, we went there for hoops. It was wild.
Yeah. They're into it.
That's where I had the $60 entrance fee.
Oh, God, for AAU basketball?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Dude, I wanted
I would fight somebody. No.
Yeah, it's extortion.
I mean,
But
you know I don't like kids, but I'm not paying that.
Anthony is questioning Sam's take. Now, Anthony, that was a little harsh. I'm not going to read that part. The Sanders greater than Drake May thing. I don't know. I think we may
I'm out on that.
We may want to mulligan.
I'm out on that. I'll take Drake May over anybody in this draft class.
Okay, so can I just say this?
Quarterback for sure.
And tell me what you think.
Yeah.
So of the iffies of the first round guys.
Okay, so
from last year.
Penix, McCarthy.
So I think Penix we like.
We like him, but he's not a yes or no yet.
Okay, yeah, fair.
Yeah.
So let me just take like the guys that we kind of saw a little that had some good, some bad.
Okay.
And one guy we didn't see at all. I would say, my opinion would be if the draft was today.
So we're including May, Penix, McCarthy?
No Penix.
Okay, so May and McCarthy.
Yeah.
Okay.
The draft would go May, McCarthy, Sanders, Ward.
I think there's some people that would talk themselves into Sanders over McCarthy. I'm not saying I would. I don't have a problem with that list. I think that would be the order that a lot of people have them. I think some people would talk themselves into Sanders over McCarthy. But Drake May is, for me, Drake May is number one, no questions asked in that list.
Yeah, I can't.
I don't even, it's not even close.
May's going to be good.
Yeah, I think so. And he was in a bad situation.
And he looked pretty good.
Yeah. By the end of the year, he looked like that's a guy that you're pretty happy with, I think. If you're in New England, like Drake May makes
good enough to not play yesterday.
Yeah, Drake May makes that New England job way more appealing.
100%.
Way more appealing.
Yeah, Drake May is good.
Like if I'm Mike Vrabel, who we're assuming gets that job, right? Like we're assuming Vrabel gets that job or no?
Again, why would you interview in New York?
I don't know. Leverage for a contract?
Did you see what he's report though? that his sons are not involved in the business.
Let's hope not. So not Johnson and Johnson.
Aaron Rodgers
Johnson.
wasn't the first person to intimate that.
Well, no.
Aaron Rodgers just doubled down.
By the way, in New York, they are keeping Dable on the other side. They're keeping Dable and GM over there.
Yeah, Dable would have gotten hired.
Yeah, he would have. I still think they probably should have moved on, but just because he's going to get hired somebody else doesn't mean you should keep him.
I don't have a huge problem with that.
With him getting moved, with him staying? I don't have a huge problem with it, but I think they probably should have moved on.
Yeah, but who do you want to hire? I'm not in on Glenn. I'm not in.
I probably would have tried to get Ben Johnson if I was. I don't know if he's leaving, but that's what I would have tried to get.
I don't think Ben wants to leave.
Maybe. I mean, I've talked about this with college coaches a lot. I think you'll start to see in the NFL too.
Kingsbury is the coordinator that wants another head job,
which is nuts.
Why?
Because if you're Kingsbury, you've not been successful as a head coach at all.
Well, I mean, he's been plenty successful in the first half of the season.
True. If they stopped halfway through the year, he'd be maybe the greatest coach.
Well, he could have learned.
Maybe. But if I'm a guy in that position, maybe it's because I'm not competitive enough. I don't know. But if I'm like a Ben Johnson or a Cliff Kingsbury, especially if I'm a Kingsbury and I've tried it and it hasn't gone well, and I'm like, hey, this is the thing I'm really good at and really well compensated for, I might just keep doing that thing.
Justin says something interesting. I wouldn't fight him over it.
What's that?
He says he would take Ward over Sanders. I would not argue with you over that, J-Dub. I would not.
I think it's probably Sanders.
I need to see a little more. I want to see real measurables.
Sure.
Like I want to. I don't know. Talk to me in March.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure what to do with Ward and the NFL. I'm just not totally sure what it looks like.
Yeah.
Shador to me is an easier translation. Like Shador looks like he's got an NFL skill set. Like I feel pretty confident about that. Cam Ward makes some incredible plays. I don't think they were running close to like an NFL style offense in Miami. Maybe that's just me. But
no, he's got some great insight on Cam Ward, but guys can mature.
Yeah.
And both guys have changed considerably since their last interactions.
Yeah.
But Coach Holgerson.
Yeah. Well, and we'll talk at 9. Ryan Roberts does a lot of draft stuff, so we can ask him these questions.
I want to ask him about first-round quarterback grades. Is there one?
So a lot of people will have Shador as a real first-round grade. Now, he's going to get overdrafted for sure. I think in most years, like last year, he's not earlier than the 4th off the board, I don't think. That's the best he would have been, was 4th off the board. Maybe 5th if you like McCarthy. I liked Penix a lot, obviously, so he'd have been 5th off the board for me. You could have made an argument with me over him or McCarthy.
Are you surprised that Goff got off scot-free for the way he played last night?
No, because they won.
He wasn't good either.
No, but they won.
No, he was what? What do you think? He only had like 6 or 7 incompletions, right?
Yeah,
but 2 of them were picks.
That's kind of the funny thing about Goff is even when he doesn't play well, the numbers end up pretty good.
I would probably because he's accurate.
Yeah. So the numbers are going to look okay.
And he typically doesn't turn the ball over.
Yeah, so the numbers are going to look okay. Even though
he wasn't great.
You sit there and you're like, I'd kind of like to see him make more of those throws or he checks down too much sometimes. But we will continue this conversation.
Yeah, I got some thoughts.
Coming up next year on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla reminding you to get to supernovas.com to get your tickets for this Friday's opening match against the Atlanta Vibe. They start their season off defending their PVF championship at CHI Health Center Friday, January 10th. Make sure you get to supernovas.com for your tickets. What's up, DB?
Nothing.
There's
just a lot of hot takes now on quarterbacks. Apparently, I like. So we'll stay with it because it appears to be a thing, and I'm shocked. So my guy Husker X's and O's, who I talk with
pretty frequently.
Yeah,
regularly.
I don't believe he means this.
Okay, let's hear it.
He said you could flip a coin on May and Ward in my eyes. But he does think Sanders is a bust waiting to happen. How could you flip a coin on May and Ward? One guy you've actually seen be functional in the league.
Yeah. I think people underestimate.
I might be crazy.
Well, you are, but maybe not about this.
I think Drake May is going to be way good.
I agree. I think Drake May's really good. Will be really good.
We got to. I don't know. Maybe it's.
I don't think that's a hot take. We can ask Ryan. He's plugged in on draft stuff. So we can ask.
It appears to be a hot take.
I don't think it is. I think it's Drake May, to me, would easily be the number one quarterback and the number one pick in this year's draft.
Dude is pretty. You just got to.
Without question.
He's pretty good.
He is.
And he had.
Not a great situation.
Yeah.
Like, to be as good as he was in the situation he's in is really impressive. There were guys that did less with more in recent years, frequently. Like, I think Drake May is really good. I think he's on his way to being really good. And I would take him without a question over any quarterback in the 2025 draft. Now, you want to get to McCarthy versus Sanders or Ward versus Sanders, I can have some discussions there.
Now, I'm kind of riding with J-Dub this morning.
What J-Dub got?
Well, because remember, I told you I wouldn't argue over the Ward-Sanders thing. He likes Ward over Sanders, and he makes an actual
Yeah, I'm not going to die on that hill.
A tangible point. Ward seldom did not show up. He balled all the time.
Fair, yeah.
I mean, pretty much. And there were times where
that defense was terrible.
Single-handedly.
Keeping it a minute or winning games.
Scrambling and making plays. And some of those comebacks that they had to have in the middle portion of the year where they won those one-score games.
100%. That dude made plays all the time.
So I'll ride with that.
Ward's a gamer for sure. Like, that dude will go out and make plays when it matters.
And then Eric asked me if the Vikings lock up
Darnold,
do
they trade McCarthy?
Would I like the Steelers to make up on JJ? Yes,
100%.
Yes, but I'm well aware. Like, I know that I like JJ more than most coming out.
Here's the thing, though. It doesn't even matter how much you like JJ. I don't think, because if you're in the Steelers' position where you're always good enough that you're not going to ever get a really good draft pick, you have to take chances on quote-unquote distressed assets, right? Yeah. That's why the Justin Fields move made sense.
Okay, but here's the thing, though. If you're the Vikings, do you franchise Darnold?
Probably. I probably need to see it another year. I think you franchise him. Or...
Okay, I get the business portion.
Yeah.
The relationship that KOC has with Darnold, he does not seem like on a franchise you kind of guy. Now, that may be above his pay grade with Mensa.
Here's the difference, though, with a guy like Darnold, is he's used to having, he's now used to having these one-year deals.
Right.
This isn't Kirk Cousins, where he's going to take it personally that he was franchised. Like, this is a guy who has seen his career flash before his eyes. He understands the one-year deals. I think.
But JJ's been in the system, though, for a year now.
Yeah, we haven't seen JJ play at all.
But we haven't seen him play, but he's learned the playbook. I mean, he's there at all the meetings. He's doing all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, he's ahead of where he would have been at this time last year, obviously.
Now,
Darnold has played too well just to let him go, though. I don't think that's an option.
So, Anthony, he comes back with, and I get this. Now, to me, and this is kind of a hot take, but he's not alone. I saw this a ton the last 4 or 5 days with Drew Aller.
Mm-hmm.
That if Drew Aller declares for the draft, he'd be the first quarterback off the board. I couldn't disagree more.
You take Sanders over him?
You're going to
all of these guys are going to get overdrafted for what they are, right? We just have to accept that.
Drew's not. He's not that guy.
So here's my question, though.
Probably for a local guy, and maybe this is just sports in general, I think I probably watch him more than...
Yeah, you watch a ton of Drew Aller.
I'm constantly bringing him up.
You're very familiar with his game. Yeah.
The 27-5, and what are we missing?
The 18-2 last year was a misnomer.
I always do that with him just because...
If you watch him play versus watching his numbers, it's way different.
Well, it's kind of like I was talking with Kobe about Sam Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's because I said, I'm like, hey, his teammates didn't really help him out much. Yeah. Kobe's like, well, God, he missed a ton of open guys. He's got to play better. No,
yes,
I agree.
Yes,
there were some errant throws, but see, context matters because if some of those guys make those catches early on in those drives, we don't get to see the rest.
Yeah,
we don't get to see the forced.
You don't get to make a play. The 3rd and 9 where it's an obvious passing situation.
Know what I mean? So I think context matters. Were there some errant throws? Sure, but. He didn't get any help.
Like a drop on 1st and 10 is different than an incompletion on 3rd and 9.
And it's like, I don't know. Even if you don't call intentional grounding on golf, that ball, and maybe I'm crazy, but isn't that illegal touching? It was touched first by a lineman.
I think so.
So it's like so. That thing. There's a lot. I mean, Van Ginkel catches that ball nine
times out of 10. Yeah,
I mean, he's Mr. Pick
Six. That should be 6. Like that should be 6, right?
Yeah, I don't know, Ant. Like, he may be saying something different than I'm inferring. If he's just saying he'd be the first pick if he came out of the quarterbacks versus
he likes him the best.
Yeah,
because that's different, right?
Yeah, because he might be by default. He might be right.
Perception of Drew Aller might be that he would be better than the other two in terms of a draft prospect.
Yeah,
I think people legitimately are enamored with Shedeur Sanders, though. I think people legitimately are kind of obsessed with him. And not to say they aren't with Cam Ward, because some people really are. I think the consensus is more that people like Sanders, and the people that are really high on Ward are really high, and then there's people that are, I think there's a larger variance with Ward on how people feel about him. I think there's kind of a consensus on draft people in general, what they think of Sanders. I don't think Sanders would drop below Drew Aller, just for any reason. I really don't.
I just look at some of those concepts.
And that's not being in love with
Colorado got away with running.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I don't know, man. I'm not.
I still have a hard time getting over.
I'm not a big Shedeur guy. Even though last year, because somebody will remember that I actually said this. I'm like, he's a top 2-round talent. So I'm not.
But there's a big difference.
But now that I've seen more now, and concepts matter to me. Like I'm constantly.
Yeah. Like what he's asked to run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
NFL's tough.
So here's the thing, though, about what you said.
It's
top 2-round talent and top 5.
I even think I said first round. I think I said first round.
And top 5 pick are different, right?
Yeah.
Like even first-round talent is different than number 1 overall pick talent, right? Those are different things. And so you can say first-round talent and think, okay, well, like Kenny Pickett went in the first round.
Would you knock it off?
That's just the first guy I thought of.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to be a Dean Blandino.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were.
I'm trying to think of who's somebody else. Well,
by the way, have you seen Terry McAulife's act on Twitter?
No.
Old official Terry McAuliffe?
Huh.
Dude.
Is he on one?
Dude, he's kind of a get off my lawn guy.
I mean, that's not really surprising for an official.
I mean, super get off my lawn.
He's like Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. Yeah, Walt McCauley.
He's got his Gran Torino game right.
Terry Kowalski.
But no, I think you sit there and you go, okay, this guy's a first-round talent at back half of the first round is a different conversation than this guy's a first-round talent, top 3-4 picks of the draft. Like, that's a different thing.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Like, if I'm in the 20s and have a chance to draft Shedeur Sanders, that's something I probably think about. If I'm at 2 and have a chance to draft Shedeur Sanders, that's a totally different conversation for me.
And I think maybe the way that New England approached the last handful of games with the Giants and the Bills and them being committed to May versus having the number 1 overall pick.
Do you think winning yesterday cost Mayo his job?
Gosh, I'm the wrong guy to ask because I listen to him all the time.
Yeah.
That's the reason he
That's why it cost him his job?
Yes.
Yeah. But they kind of liked him. Allegedly.
I know the fan, you have to be careful, right? Because the fans shouldn't control the pace, but
it's hard with Vrabel out there for them specifically.
And it's hard to say, like, man, do we have what's going to happen at the top of the draft, and is it worth having the trade value, right? Because what's somebody going to offer you for the 1, and who is it?
Right.
Is there a big difference between 1 and 4?
Maybe, but do you get any? Like, what's the value in winning that game, though? Drake May wasn't playing.
Nothing. There's nothing.
It's not even like, hey, we're going to get good reps for Drake May. You know what I mean?
I don't know. Let him tell it was they wanted to see where Milroe was.
You feel good about that?
I saw enough where I know I would play him ahead of, White from Buffalo.
It's because White from Buffalo was a practice squad player yesterday, and he'll be back on the practice squad tomorrow. Ain't nobody trying to start Mike White.
Mike
White. Ryan Roberts coming up next, Rated Z Sports. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DBM Ravi Lulla at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by Ryan Roberts. He's a college football analyst and a draft expert for A to Z Sports. Ryan, what's going on, man?
Not much, fellas. A little bit of snow here in Jersey. How's everything over there?
Oh, you know what? We miss Snowmageddon. There's this ongoing joke that there's this thing called the Omaha Dome, where there's this corridor where snow misses Omaha but gets everybody else. And that's pretty much the case. There's some places a couple hours away that got buried. And I think we didn't get anything more than dusting.
Yeah.
2 hours away, not even. They got almost a foot. So
that's crazy. It's kind of similar here. I'm in South Jersey, and we're only going to get about 4 to 6 inches. But I think North Jersey is going to get hit super hard, and then Maryland, D.C. area, I think is getting a really bad storm. So it's kind of funny how those pockets happen,
Yeah. So ton of hot takes. So I'm going to ask you right out of the gates. We kind of narrowed this down. If the 2025 draft were happening today, slot for me, J.J. McCarthy, Drake May, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward.
Okay. That's a great question. So let me think back for a second. So Drake May would be my one. Just thinking about pure draft grades, not understanding, what happened rookie year, that type of thing. Drake May would be me. I would have Cam Ward. I would have, and I haven't finished actually grading Shedeur yet, but I think Shedeur and JJ for me would be pretty close. But I think the thought process you're going through, though, because I was last year's class, I had Caleb and Jaden Daniels as my top 2. So Drake May was 3 for me, just kind of in context of that class. I think where you're getting to, and where I 100% agree with, is that this is not a great quarterback class. Yeah. It's not, right? I think in typical, if you ask me in a vacuum, where would I want Cameron Ward and Shedeur Sanders to be drafted? In a typical year, I would say in the late first round. You know what I mean? A late first round, early second type of conversation. But they're going to be the first 2 picks overall, obviously, now that we kind of have an understanding of what that top of the draft order is going to be. So not a great quarterback class, but some guys are going to get propped up because there are some very quarterback. The top 3 need quarterbacks, and the New York Giants at number 3 right now are going to be in a really interesting situation because, are you going to reach on someone like a Jalen Milroe, or are you going to trade back, or are you just going to take the best player available? It's going to be fascinating right at the top.
How big of a decision do you think Drew Aller needs to make?
Well, he would probably be quarterback 3 at worst. But he could fight potentially to be that quarterback 2, maybe even that quarterback 1. He has the fight because ultimately he has a skill set that the NFL tends to really fall for, right? He's going to be 6'4" verified. He's going to be right around 235, 240. He's going to have probably the strongest arm in the class.
He doesn't turn it over.
I'll say the numbers are going to be appealing.
Yeah, and he's worked in. I know Andy Koltonecki's a little bit more of a, he's got a college-oriented approach. He does a lot of very interesting things, but he's also played in a little bit more of pro-oriented kind of concepts and stuff. Worked off play action under center. So there's gonna be a lot of people that really want to push for Drew, and I completely get it. Now, I do think though that Drew would be best served to go back for one more year because you saw the growth from 2023 to 2024. I didn't really like 2023, to be honest. 2024,
we didn't either.
I didn't either. That's why we like talking to you.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff in 2024, though. And if he makes a similar ascension from what he did from 2023 to 2024, from 2024 to 2025, I think he's then a legit top 10 pick, in a vacuum. Okay. Right now, he would be a top 10 pick because of demand. But if he went back for another year, I think Drew Aller could take another big jump.
So, Ryan, I don't know if you've looked at next year's draft class yet, but if you're a guy like Drew Aller and you're looking at, okay, maybe it's best for my development to go back to college for 1 year, but maybe it's best for my draft status to come out this year, because obviously it's a weak class, and you go, okay, if I could be in conversation for QB1 even, or at worst case scenario, I know there's a bunch of desperate teams at the top of the draft outside the top 2. Like, how much do you think that weighs when looking at next year's draft class versus this year's draft class for a guy like Drew Aller?
Well, I think it's really important for these players, especially now with the NIL era where they're working with agents a lot earlier than they used to, is you need to make sure that you're getting good information, right, to make those types of decisions. Because for me, like, early look at the 2026 class, like Nico from Tennessee is going to be a name a lot of people are talking about, but he's incredibly up and down. Cade Klubnik from Clemson took a nice step, but he's a guy that, again, needs another year. I think when you really look at the 2025, 2026 quarterback classes next to each other, I don't think 2026 is like right now this slam dunk. That quarterback class is going to be way better than 2025. I think there's a lot of question marks. I guess I'm looking more from a perspective of what is the best long term for Drew Aller, right? Because yes, that first contract is great, but everyone wants to get to that second contract, right? Like, that's where the huge money ultimately is. And if he goes out to a bad football team a year early where he's not ready, and then he falters early, even if he ends up being like a Sam Darnold redemption story in the end, like, you lost out on a lot of money on a huge second contract potentially if you weren't mentally or physically ready. So I think when you compare 2025 to 2026, I think you're still comparing the classes in the sense of, I think I could be quarterback 1 in both of them, potentially. But if I'm quarterback 1 in 2026, I'm a year older, I'm a year mature, and he's only a true junior, right? Like, it's not like he's going to be a 24, 25-year-old rookie coming out. He's still going to be young. So I think being patient would probably be best for him, because I think I want to maximize what those first couple of years look like so that you make sure that you get to that big payday eventually down the road.
Ryan, so I wanted to ask you about J.J. McCarthy here, because that's a guy that actually could be available this offseason depending on what the Vikings do with Sam Darnold. If you're a team and you need a quarterback in this draft and you're looking like, okay, do I try and trade up to get one of the guys that is probably, I mean, is definitely going to get overdrafted in one of the first 2 guys? Do I try and trade for J.J. McCarthy? Like, where does that kind of tipping point for you where it's like, hey, it makes more sense to go for McCarthy at this point as opposed to one of the quarterbacks in this class?
I mean, it all depends on what you're able to get for McCarthy, right? Like, if I say, give me a second rounder and I get J.J. McCarthy, then that conversation could possibly happen. If it's a late first-round pick, that I'm giving up for him, I think that conversation obviously still happens. I think personally, like, I would just be patient with this quarterback class a little bit. Like, I'm literally working on a mock draft, like, as we speak with the New York Giants, where, like, I had that conversation in my mind of, like, just how valuable is this pick, right? Because everyone always talks about your teams trading back if they don't like what's on the board for them and whatever. But, like, there needs to be teams that actually also want to trade up, right? Like, you can't just trade back to just trade back. Like, you need a team that want to be able to jump up. So when I look at it that way, I think that there's going to be patience in this class. Like, I don't think it's quite as bad as 2022 with, like, Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis and, like, that class. But I do think that we're going to be a little bit surprised as far as, like, the teams being patient. Like, I don't think that there's a foregone conclusion that there's 3 to 4 quarterbacks going top 10, even though there are 3 to 4 quarterback needy teams in the top 10, right? Like, I think that you're going to see all avenues kind of being thought about in this. Like, there's obviously the older market too, right? Like, we're talking about Sam Darnold and that impending decision. There's a possibility that Minnesota lets him walk, right? Because they just don't want to. They want to move on for the cheaper value of what J.J. McCarthy is going to, cost, and that type of conversation too. So there's going to be a veteran market out there too. Is a Kirk Cousins available? I mean, I think that one's a little dead at this point, but, like, there's going to be some veterans available. There's going to be some younger guys available. There's going to be draft options out there. So I think quarterback needy teams are going to be a little bit patient. Like, I expect the first 2 to be quarterbacks this year, but I'm not certain that Jalen Milroe goes top 10. I'm not. If Drew Aller came out, I think that he probably would go top 10, but I wouldn't be shocked if he wasn't a top 10 pick either. So I think that the value of J.J. McCarthy in your scenario is, what is it going to cost me? If it's a late first, second round pick, I think some teams would be very interested. If we're talking about like a top 10 pick, I think that's, obviously a big conversation piece because he's also coming off an injury. I know he's young still, so it probably won't have long-term implications, but I do think that it's just a little bit of a relative conversation of, like, what are you getting back for a guy like JJ?
And I guess as I'm kind of thinking about this out loud, but if there's this market for reluctantly, I'll say Geno Smith, Sam Darnold. Certainly the poster child would probably be Baker Mayfield. When we see these guys that have been other places haven't been near as successful but have showed some flashes, they're a little better late. Why do you think we don't talk more about like kind of the coach, the OC, kind of quarterback, kind of fit dynamic more when we've seen over the last handful of years some quarterbacks that have been in the league flourish later rather than earlier?
Well, I think it's a conversation that we have to have more. I mean, people have talked about it a little bit more this offseason, just obviously with Baker Mayfield taking a huge step, with Sam Darnold taking a huge step, and those great redemption stories. But I mean, ultimately, like I always joke every single year from the draft space, like let me finish my quarterback rankings when I know where these players end up going. Like not even before they take a snap for their new team that drafts them. But the minute I'm not going to throw shade at the Cleveland Browns, but like there was a string there where it was like, you know, they were taking questionable quarterbacks, but it's also like, you know, Brady Quinn's just not going to be good in Cleveland, man. Like, it's just not going to happen. Johnny Manziel might have been okay if he had his head on straight in like a couple spots, but like in Cleveland, it wasn't going to work. Like, there's just some situations where it's doomed from the start. Like, it's just always going to happen. And I also think that there's a conversation piece because the support system is so important. Like, it is. I mean, It can make or break a very talented football player at the end of the day. But then the other conversation that you're working through here, which I think is a fascinating one, is that Sam Darnold is an example we use with the New York Jets. The New York Jets did not have great support around him. He went through a mental process of like, wow, man, this stinks. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm treading water. I don't think I have great support around me. I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't get to learn from anybody. Like, it was bad, right? And like he went through that mental just up and down and mostly down. But then eventually he got to a situation where like he learned how to be a pro, right? Like he learned and ultimately down, like when we look at it full scope, that was probably good for Sam Darnold to fail early because now he understands what failure looks like. And I just don't think we're patient enough with the quarterback development process. Like I would love to know, some quarterbacks, if there was just a little bit more patience early, like Bryce Young is going to be a fascinating one for Carolina, right? Like he failed horribly as a rookie. They failed horribly, even worse, the first few games, but then he gets kind of his mental process broken a little bit, and he's got a young coach in Canales, and maybe that he'll be able to turn around. But the last few games, he looked like a completely different quarterback. Now, if they let him go through next year, and maybe he starts to continue to trend upward, then maybe we're cooking with something, right? But like that mental process of knowing how to fail and also knowing how to succeed, I think it's very important. And unfortunately, we live in just a world right now of quarterback development where if you don't show, the Pro Bowl upside in the first year or two, you're out of a job when it might have been there. You just weren't patient enough. So there is a general lack of patience with quarterback development. Hopefully we learn from it, though. I mean, I think this is a cyclical thing of like some teams will start to figure out like, hey, that didn't work for like a long time. Like maybe we need to learn from that and move forward. And I'm hopeful for that because I think there are a lot of quarterbacks and a lot of players in general that don't get the necessary time of development and the support around them that they need.
Yeah, this is totally not blowing smoke. It's one of the reasons why I enjoy talking to you because the conversation evolves. I eventually, I promise you, I'm going to get to Campbell and Banks and left tackle. But we keep talking about quarterbacks. I got to ask you something just listening to this.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know, and I'll even give you the ability to have hindsight. Going forward tomorrow, would you take C.J. Stroud or Jaden Daniels?
Wow, that's a great question. I had Jaden Daniels rated higher than C.J. Stroud coming out of college just for one, like a starting point conversation, which is, I think, a little bit of a hot take. Like,
can you believe this is a conversation, though? This is a legit question.
Yeah, it is. It really is. For me, and the size stuff with Jaden worried me a little bit just because like he played at 203, 204 his last year at LSU, and like that was really like bulking him up, you know what I mean, and maintaining that weight, and it was hard for him, you know what I mean. And I don't know what he's playing at right now, but like we've seen him get banged up a little bit as a rookie as well. So like long term is still like a little bit of a question, but I think I always defer in this modern era to the guy that can beat me more ways than one, right? And I think C.J. Stroud ultimately, although he's a solid mover and being able to, create a little bit outside structure when he needs to, manipulate the pocket, I think Jaden Daniels is just, as a defensive coordinator mindset, like I am way more worried about Jaden Daniels than I am about C.J. Stroud. And that's no disrespect to C.J. Stroud. I still think he's a very good player, but he is going to beat me mostly in one way. Jaden Daniels could beat me in a couple ways, which is terrifying to me as a defensive coordinator perspective, right? So I think Jaden would be my answer, but it's a very fascinating conversation because, I mean, I didn't think we would be having this conversation obviously before the season because CJ, rookie of the year, looks great. And then, has obviously a little bit of a sophomore slump, but like the sophomore slump is based upon, a lot of injuries and a lot of inconsistencies. And there's a lot of support system around him that just wasn't as good as it was as a rookie. So I think it's a fascinating conversation, but I probably would defer to Jaden Daniels, but it would be a very tough conversation for me.
And one more draft question before I move on to the playoffs. If you're going to think safe with linemen or versus upside at the tackle spot, you like Campbell or do you like Banks?
Oh, man, if it's just about safety and having the floor, I like Campbell better. But I do think that, which is so weird to say for a third-year junior. Like, I mean, we're talking about Will Campbell like we're talking about him like he's like Andrew Whitworth and he's like 39 playing left tackle. But like, there's just, I think I know exactly who Will Campbell is, which is good in the sense of, for an offensive lineman, especially, like, you want a good floor. Like, you don't just want all upside as an offensive lineman. Like, you want the floor to be high as well. So if I just wanted, I know that guy's going to be a really good player, whether it's at a tackle or eventually moving inside the guard, whatever. I think Will Campbell's a safer pick, but Kelvin Banks is the more talented overall player, but he's been a little bit more up and down. So if we're just thinking about safety and a guy that I know could play for the next 8 to 10, that would be Will Campbell from LSU.
Let me ask you something about the playoffs. It's just a fascinating discussion when kind of how teams are playing going into it and whether it matters or not. I think Denver runs the ball well enough and is pretty good on the back end. I see the line. It's 8.5, 9 with Buffalo. It seems like Denver is kind of built to be more competitive in that game, do we think? Is that fair or foul?
I think it's fair. I think Sean Payton said it perfectly after the game, the little blurb that came out, right, where he said we're young and hungry, and that's dangerous, right? Like, and it is dangerous. It's 100%, because, look, everyone's going to hyper-focus on quarterbacks because that's what we do, but we know that run game and defense travels in the playoffs, man. Like, it does. So, and I also think that, like, Josh Allen is incredible, right? Like, he's the second best quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. And I think that he is a tremendous talent, and he is Superman at times for that Buffalo Bills team. But they still can be up and down because I don't think that the whole roster is great still, right? Like, we saw a couple game stretch where they let up over 40 points. The run game has been good this year with James Cook, but, like, even he is a little bit of a volatile runner at times, right? Like, you can have some great games and you'll have one.
I love him, though. I'm a huge JC guy, man.
Yeah. Oh, he's dynamic. And it was funny. I think he only had like 2 or 3 touchdowns last year. And all of a sudden, all he could do was hit the end zone this year. You know what I mean? It was very odd. But, but I think that formula, though, can be a little bit volatile. I think when the Buffalo Bills are playing their best, they can beat absolutely anybody. But I think when they're just, a little bit kind of trudging along, I do think that they're beatable, right? So, I mean, I would pick Buffalo to win that game, obviously. But I do think that spread is a little bit high, especially in a playoff setting, because, Denver's getting after the quarterback this year. They're creating a lot of pressure. They play good defense. You got Sean Payton as your head coach, and you have that physicality aspect to you. They're not a great running team, but they're going to run the football. They're going to keep you honest. And if Bo Nix he doesn't need to be Superman. Like, Bo Nix needs to be just mistake-free and good. And he's been really good the last few games. I mean, this past week, he threw like 4 touchdowns, right? Like, he was dynamic. You don't need him necessarily to be that every game to be competitive in the playoffs. But you do need him to be safe with the football. And if he's safe and they play good defense, I think they can be a dangerous team. And they'll certainly be a tough out potentially.
Ryan, that's not even the biggest line in that opening weekend. My co-host team, the Steelers, are 9.5-point dogs to the Ravens, despite the fact that I believe they've won 8 out of the last 10 against Baltimore.
Yeah. Recency bias.
But
blowout.
But you've also got a Steelers team that's lost a few straight coming in here.
What do you? 4?
Just a handful. I was trying to be generous. Do you think more likely that the Steelers upset the Ravens, or I'm going to go over to the NFC, that the Packers upset the Eagles?
I think it's more likely the Steelers upset the Ravens for a couple different reasons. I think you said one is that the Steelers have had the Ravens number to a degree, right, as far as like the recent history of those teams playing. I also think that Lamar was one of the best quarterback seasons we ever had, but he has still had a very up and down and a lot of downs in the playoffs, right? And he still does have something to prove in the postseason as far as playing his best brand of football. On the other side, I have doubted this Eagles team, and I live right outside of Philadelphia, and I'm not an Eagles fan, and I've continuously just kind of doubted this team, and they just kind of keep firing a little bit, man. And now Jalen had a couple weeks off. It sounds like he'll be good from the concussion protocol. You just had Saquon get healthy for a week after sitting. The Eagle team is pretty good, man. They're pretty good. And the Green Bay Packers are kind of what I was talking about before of like, you want to talk about volatility. Like there's some weeks where the Packers look like they're one of the best teams in the NFL or maybe the best team. And then another week where you're just like, I mean, like Jordan Love, can turn the ball over at times. The running game's good behind Josh Jacobs, but like they're just a little bit too up and down for me. So I think the Eagles are going to win that game. I think it's more likely that the Steelers pull off the upset than the Packers, which is kind of crazy to say because I do think the Packers are a good football team. I guess I'm just trying to learn my lesson a little bit from down in this Eagles team. Like they're pretty good, man. When they're fully healthy, they're pretty good.
R2, with the jobs that are open, and apparently the Giants won't come open or available, is there a coach that you would trade for, given a fit of what's out there?
Oh, coach that I would trade for. That's an interesting question. Man, we're going like John Gruden back in the day, right?
Well, this is on the heels. I mean, Mensa had to come out and say, "Listen, O'Connell, we're locking our coach up, right? He's not going to be available." But I mean, it was floated, and he would never do it. But there was this hypothetical of the stability of Tomlin and Khan in Chicago. What? Could Shanahan be burned out? Is McVay burned? You know what I mean? Like, is there a coach you would trade for?
I mean, it's might be slightly biased because I am a Rams fan, but like, I mean, if there's some way for another team to get Sean McVay, it's gonna be pretty dang smart, man. Like,
he's a witch.
He is. Yeah,
he's a witch.
It's so weird because I mean, so they went all in, obviously, trading first round picks, getting Jalen Ramsey, getting Matt Stafford, like, just burning draft capital, which for me as a draft guy, like it made me cringe a little bit because I'm like, no, still build through the draft. Don't do just that. Like I don't like that, but it worked. Obviously they won a Super Bowl, right? But like we saw the next step of like, now that you did that, when you have a slew of injuries, your roster kind of stinks now, right? Because you're a little bit top heavy. You're not really great depth. But like the fact that they've been able to recover from that season a couple of years ago after the Super Bowl where like it looked like a complete disaster and get back on track. I mean, one, Les Snead being able to fill in, the general manager being able to fill in the gaps in like day 3, I think has been fantastic. I mean, they've hit on like 4th, 5th round draft, like Kyron Williams and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Like they've hit on a lot of day 3 draft picks the last few years, I should say. But then like, you have to give credit to McVay. I mean, just the fact that getting this team, I watched them. They were 1-4 this year, right? They were 1-4. They had like an 11% chance to make the playoffs. And they end up winning the division, right? Like it's almost wild kind of to think about. So I guess what my bias is attached here, but I would go McVay just because I think the world of the guy, man. I suffered through a long 10 years of Scott Linehan and the end of the Mike Martz era and Joe Vitt and like it was awful.
Don't forget about Jeff Fisher, the GOAT.
Don't forget about Jeff Fisher. Don't forget about Steve Spagnuolo as a head coach. Like it was bad, man. It was really bad. So shout out to McVay because he has turned the tide to say the least. So for like 12 years, the Rams were the worst team in the NFL, arguably. Like their record was terrible. They were like 40-something and like 113 or something like that. They were awful. And he went in there and immediately they were better because I think that he's obviously a great coach.
It's Ryan Roberts, A to Z Sports. Ryan, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Ryan.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back. Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. It is time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. Make sure you get to warhorsecasino.com for a full list of promotions, details, and House rules. D. Bizzle, what's up? What are you waving at people for?
My man QB Ace.
Mhm.
He knows better.
What does he know better?
He said the Bills at -8.5 is the biggest lock of the weekend. Bills win 38-13.
Ooh.
I'm telling you, and I'm telling you.
Is there a? I'm kind
Was
of.
it weird that I wanted to go out and give Bill a hug? Do you think he would be like, "What a wackadoodle"?
No, I like seeing Bill around.
But I don't know if he's like.
I don't know if he's a hugger.
I'm not, but I was gonna hug.
You
Bill.
are too.
It depends. You're right. It depends.
Yeah.
Very, very. I'm all in or all out.
Yeah.
That
The people you're all in on though, like
Yep.
you want to
100%.
you're gonna dap them up.
That's true.
That's a real thing.
8.5, really, QB Ace? Are you sure?
I don't know. I think honestly,
That helmet in his Avi.
I don't even recognize.
People sleep on those black helmets with that red block in.
oh, those are nice.
Those were.
I like
fire.
those.
Kind of
Man,
like Detroit's.
I
last night.
was just gonna say that.
Yeah,
Those
those are-
Detroit
those-
ones with
those-
that like
those-
bright blue popping on there.
Those were off the chain.
I love
And in a
those.
sleepy, in case you missed it,
I love those.
how about my former organization, the Panthers, bringing back the silver pants and white top?
It's a good look.
Bro, they hadn't worn those since '98.
That's back in the day.
Back in the day.
That's back in your day.
Look, those are so fire.
Yeah. I've always liked the Panthers kind of get up. Like those are good colors.
Yeah, me too.
Black and baby blue are really good together.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's technically a baby blue or electric blue, whatever they call it.
I used to have, I think Caleb jacked it. He took like my security card,
Yeah.
my mini helmet, but I used to have a lot of Panthers gear.
Yeah.
And their mini helmet was so sweet because of the Jaguar. I just saw Peterson on
They
the
came in
TV.
the same year.
The Panther
Mhm.
was so sweet.
I'm a big Black Lions helmets guy. Like those are incredible.
I like.
Similar color scheme to what we're talking about with the Panthers.
And speaking of which, of why we're on this Bet on It segment, did you see the stat yesterday, my friend, where teams that needed to clinch or that had something to actually play for versus not, you should have been fading yesterday. So Evan Abrams on Twitter said, eliminated teams facing a team who needed to win to get into the playoffs went 3-0 ATS.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of Panthers.
Yeah.
But so, and I'm sure, like, would you want to know if you're the team playing how your contingency team was doing?
No, I don't think so.
Like, how quickly do you think the Dolphins' spirit sank once the Broncos were like boat racing KC 2 seconds in?
Well, we know how fast Tyreek Hill's spirit sank.
Dude, I can't believe that.
Can't
you went
you?
out?
Can't you believe that?
You're not. I'm not. Listen, I'm not a
Tyreek guy.
I'm not a cheetah guy either.
I'm not. And I mean, is it surprising you that he's a guy that kind of thinks like that?
No.
McDaniels basically as much as said as he found out what the score was, and Cheetah intimated it too. And he found out what the score was, and he's like, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, and I'm a big I think McDaniels is a stud.
I like McDaniels a lot. That's a guy where like I would try and trade for. I would try and trade for.
Were you
that
surprised
coach.
that Ryan didn't say Reed?
I don't know if he was just thinking about it. Because I was kind of thinking about guys that I actually could maybe get. Right? I don't think I can get Andy Reid. Like, I don't think there's anything I can send to the Chiefs where they'll be like, yeah, you can have Andy Reid.
Well, I mean, it was kind of said that he could pick his successor, and it won't be Reed that picks it. It'll be Mahomes.
Yo, 100%. What? Yeah, without a doubt.
And as long as the Chiefs brass is still intact,
It'll be fine.
The way that they manipulate,
It'll be fine.
that front office
is incredible.
Sensational.
Patrick Mahomes, like, we forget that Peyton Manning made Jim Caldwell look like a functional NFL coach for a long time.
Hey, easy on the brother. You want me to say something nice about Omar Khan? I like Omar Khan, too.
Do you want to say something nice about like Romeo Crennel too, or what are we doing here?
Oh, wow.
What are we doing here?
No.
Okay. So Peyton Manning made Jim Caldwell look like a functional head coach for a while.
Yeah.
Like Patrick Mahomes,
Why you picked the brother?
because it was with Peyton Manning.
Well, you could have picked Mora.
Just coincidental. He made Jim Moore look like a functional head coach for a long time.
Could have picked Tom.
What do you want me to do here?
Could that guy have been an OC for anybody else other than with Peyton?
No, being Payton's OC was the easiest job in the world. You could call the same play the entire game, and Payton was just going to change it.
He was getting those guys jobs.
Yeah. I don't know how, this is one of the things that infuriates me about the NFL is how you can sit there and know for a fact that Peyton Manning is running that offense and being like, yeah, we want the Colts OC because they score a lot.
Full disclosure, do you know I caught myself trying to read Aaron Rodgers' lips? Because it turned into the Aaron Rodgers send-off game.
Yeah, it's because nobody wants him.
And so I'm like, that's why I got into the hugging and this, that, and the other. Which, by the way, my man Dookie Clint had the greatest line. He said his wife is his cheese.
So Dookie Clint is the turd. and his wife
Sarah
is
makes it all
the
good.
thing that makes it bearable.
Yes.
That's fair.
But it's just thought that was funny. I mean, because you know their relationship, right? So I could totally hear him saying that. And she's like the nicest person in America. But it's like I'm watching this game, and he's kind of balling, and I wanted Breece Hall to go off, and so I'm in the they're in the huddle. He's calling plays, and I'm like, I bet he's just doing his own thing. No,
Aaron.
Oh yeah,
100%.
So
that
it's
dude
like,
doesn't give a rip.
And he was getting guys hired, and infamously got
some guys fired too.
Shouldn't have been fired. But preceding or the coach after him said, "This guy's an awful head coach." But I'm not here to talk about Denver.
There's some guys got fired too.
Yeah, their uniforms.
Denver.
Oh my god.
Which ones?
Yesterday, did you see those?
Yeah.
All I could think of is like Tommy Lilly.
I like
Mecklenburg.
Yeah, Carl Mecklenburg.
I think it was Tommy Lilly.
I don't remember.
Shane, what was Lilly that wore 22 that used to deal your Raiders fits? It was Tom.
I don't know. That was Tom Jackson. He was there too.
I was a big Steve Atwater guy.
I was not
Atwater.
I was not a TJ guy.
Big Steve Atwater guy?
No. I didn't like those kind of
safeties that just like brought the thunder but weren't really good at anything else.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I mean, the game's changed too. Those guys can't play.
Like a Ronnie Lott.
No, although Lott was a corner at one point.
Yeah.
So he was different.
He could cover still.
Yeah, he was different.
But that's what he ended up being.
Yeah.
I thought late career Lott. He was a different.
Was different.
He was a lot different. You know what I mean?
Peyton Manning was the only reason Adam Gase got a gig. I'll never.
That's true.
I'll never forget that Adam Gase.
The press conference in the Jets.
Yeah.
The crazy eyes.
Yeah.
I would have fired him on the spot. I'd be like, nope, you're not representing us.
So the Jets went OC, DC. Now they're going to go back to just stuff. No, yesterday Woody's great.
They're going to hire Aaron Rodgers as head coach.
They're going to hire a head coach with experience.
Cool.
Well, they tried it.
Good talk, Woody. Who are you going to get? Who's out there?
Rex Ryan, man.
Okay, sure. How well does that go ever? Bringing a guy back from the dead a decade after he's last coach in the NFL. How often does that go? Hey, Shane, your Raiders have done it a couple times. How well does that go?
No, you're exactly right.
The super retreads?
The guys that have been retired for a decade or doing TV for a decade.
I know.
Like, when has that ever worked in the NFL?
Yeah. No,
I don't have an answer for you because I don't think it's happened. Certainly not recently. So I don't know what act. They're not going to get an active head coach. Nobody's taking that job that has a job already. Out of your mind.
So why was Jerry so non-committal on McCarthy?
Because Jerry's always non-committal.
But he gave him some praise.
Dude, that's what he does. You know what he's trying to do is he's putting out his feelers to see if he gets anybody he likes better. And McCarthy doesn't have the stones to be like, hey, make a decision. Let's go.
Hey, DJ's got a response for you there on the screen.
DJ, what DJ say?
That's
Yo, DJ, it's your birthday.
It's probably pretty good.
Oh, Dick Vermeil.
He's the one guy that had a long layoff and came back good.
Yeah. DJ comes with some timely ones, don't he?
He does. That's a good one.
That's a good.
That's a good one. He is the exception that proves the rule.
Yeah. Well. Oh, McKay had a layoff.
Outside Dick Vermeil, who's been good? If they hire, here's what I'm betting on. If the Jets hire Rex Ryan, they're going to be the exact same franchise they've always been.
Hey, new year, new start. You ready?
Yeah, what's up?
You want to lock one up?
Lock one in.
And you know I'm all over them because I watch them.
Yeah.
With their alleged 2 top 10 draft picks.
Who's that?
Rutgers. Catching 1.5 at home to Wisconsin.
Yeah?
Yes. Piscataway, the House of Horrors.
You know what I'm taking?
Lock up Rutgers.
Give me SDSU plus 3.5 to win the FCS National Championship, baby.
NDSU?
SDSU. NDSU. NDSU. Yes.
All right.
North Dakota
one
State.
Rutgers, one Bison.
Bison. They're back on top. Let's go. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We're also on KFOR in Lincoln. We are joined now by Jarrett Bell. He covers the NFL as a columnist for USA Today. Jarrett, how are you this morning?
Hanging in there. It's always good to get to this point in the season where the regular season is done and it's the new season. So we'll see.
JB, just having this conversation on air, off air with some of our listeners. If you had to pick today, would you take the job in Jacksonville or would you go to Chicago?
Wow. Yeah, that's a great question. I like the weather in Jacksonville. So it's kind of like either or, right?
At least Jacksonville has had a quarterback flourish before in their history. Like the Bears are fighting a long line of shaky behavior.
Yeah. And I think that when you talk about just where the Bears are situated divisionally, you've got Detroit, Green Bay, and Minnesota versus going to the AFC South, where you probably have a better chance to be competitive. I think I like Jacksonville, but the snag there is the GM, Trent Baalke.
And they kept him.
They kept him. Yeah, exactly. And so I think it just kind of says everything about what the owner, Shad Khan, is feeling, because he came out earlier during the season or before the season at some point and said that it was the most talented team that they had. And so that would seem to send the signal that, we've got the personnel to win. It's on the coaching. So to answer your question, if you gave me the choice, one or the other, and I had to pick one, I guess I'd go Jacksonville.
Jarrett, I got to ask you, it was also announced this morning around the same time that Jacksonville was moving on from Peterson that the Giants would be keeping Brian Daboll. Like, at what point do we have to look at the results and not how we feel about Daboll to decide what he is as a head coach? Because I'm not sure why he keeps getting the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I think he's benefiting right now from the idea that we can't change again. I mean, because like you said, you look at the results, and Joe Shane too, the GM. I mean, they made the decision on Daniel Jones a couple years ago, and consequently on not investing to keep Saquon Barkley, and it's blown up in their faces. And so I think the only thing that really saved them right now is just the thought that, oh no, we've got to tear it down and build it back up and start over again. And it's almost like the Giants would rather suffer a little bit longer, and their fans are going to have to suffer right along with them, because we probably will be back in this situation a year from now, if not sooner, saying, okay, what are they going to do now? Because, continuity works in a lot of situations, but it doesn't always work. And I think that's probably one of my takeaways from what's happened with the Giants, with Indianapolis, and with Miami. And those are three different situations, right? I feel much better about sticking with it if I'm the Dolphins with a quarterback in Tua and a GM and a coach who have had some success versus the Giants. And then Indianapolis is kind of in the middle of it because it's gone sideways for them too.
Jarrett, I always like to kind of ask questions to glean perspective based on what the narratives are out there. So one guy's 26, one guy's 27. You're afforded the luxury of knowing what they've done in their NFL careers. You're starting tomorrow. All right, JB. Are you taking Jordan Love or are you taking Kyler Murray?
Ooh, I like Jordan Love. I really do. And Kyler Murray is a dynamic player who can do a lot of wonderful things as well. But Jordan Love just, I was at that playoff game last year in Dallas.
He gets a lot of benefit because of that.
Yeah, he does. But, you think about kind of his whole trajectory with the Packers and sitting behind Aaron Rodgers and then assuming the job. And, look how many games. They're in the playoffs. So, I think if I had to pick one, I'd go Jordan.
Their numbers are almost identical this year. And we talk about one guy, and they're the same age, but we talk about one guy like, oh, my goodness, this, and then fill in the blank. And then the other guy, it's like, oh, yeah, he's good little dynamic guy. You know what I mean? Like, we talk about, like, they're these vastly different people, and they're not.
Yeah, well, but they're different guys in terms of what they give you at quarterback. Jordan Love is mobile, but nobody's mobile like Kyler Murray except for, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, a bigger version of all that in terms of what can be done with the feet. But, Kyler Murray was the first pick in the draft. And so
he's got a career 92 rating. And we never talk about it. We it's like, it's just odd, right? It's interesting to me how we view quarterback play.
JB, if they flipped franchises, do you think they'd have the opposite number of wins?
That's a great point because the Packers have a much more established package around Jordan Love, and that's overall team deal too. Maybe the results will be different, but okay, let's go with the reality though. Kyler Murray was the top, pick in the draft, and you're nowhere near being a major player in terms of, the playoff picture.
AFC is obviously loaded. So let's talk like a potential, let's say, dark horse. They're in the same division. The Chargers or the Broncos?
The Broncos defense has been just, incredible.
Outside the last 3 weeks, but yeah.
Yeah. And well, but they're a big play defense, and, you look at how Bo Nix has developed over the course of the year. He's just got that, that knack for making stuff happen. Not to say that Justin Herbert can't, because we know that. But the thing with the Broncos quarterback is he's a rookie, so it's kind of like all new stuff. But the dark horse, one versus the other, man, that's a good one. But like I said, I think Denver's defense kind of gives you a little bit more to say. But shoot, they got to go to Buffalo. So dark horse this week, Chargers.
It's good that the Texans appear to be an afterthought after being the darling at this point a year ago.
Yeah, and then they just had such stuff to deal with them in terms of the best laid plan for their wide receiver core. So I think that kind of takes the steam out of it a little bit. And then C.J. Stroud has been decent, but a year ago we were like, wow, he should have been the first pick in the draft. And you can still make that point too, even though Bryce Young had his best game ever in the NFL anyway yesterday. So, they may be flying under the radar a little bit, but I'm not. If I'm one of these teams that is in the playoffs, I think I'd rather take my chances of winning at Houston than at Buffalo.
Jarrett, if you would take the couple of teams that had really good regular seasons in the Ravens and the Vikings, who would you rather be this week? Playing the Steelers, a team that they've struggled against recently, losing 8 out of the last 10, or would you rather be playing the Rams, where
I like the Rams.
I kind of do too. That the Rams feel a little scary to me, and they've got that home game. Which of those two teams would you rather be? The Vikings playing the Rams or the Ravens playing the Steelers?
Good one.
Yeah. I think my gut instinct says I'd rather be the Ravens playing the Steelers, because the Steelers have been so bad over the past month, and their offense is just not what it was when it was flowing 6 weeks ago or whatever it was. So I'll say that. And you're at home, and being at home is just what you play for. And it might be your last game at home, too. So, I think I'd rather be the Ravens, because the Ravens definitely have peaked at the right time. Okay, so you look at kind of how their season has progressed. They started 0-2, remember that?
Yeah.
In the first week or two, they didn't give the ball to Derrick Henry and all of that. So they have really just kind of, like I said, they've built progressively to get to this point, and they've got a lot of momentum going. So I think I'd rather be Baltimore than I would be than the Vikings right now.
That's a fantastic point.
That's Jarrett Bell. He covers NFL for USA Today. Jarrett, we appreciate the time. We'll talk to you again soon.
Always the man, JB. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate you guys having me. Take care.
That's all for today. We'll be back tomorrow. More Hurrdat Sports Radio.